Chapter 809. This is mine. Don't you dare touch it. When Shifeng heard the voice behind him, he was slightly stunned. He then turned around and said with a smile, I just want to help you take a look at what these are. After that, Shifeng directly grabbed the first item on the white jade table. It was a jade slip, and there was an exquisite rune pattern on the edge that sealed it. Shifeng directly used his Reiki energy to look into it. Then, his eyes lit up, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. When Chu Hen saw Shifeng expression, he immediately had a bad premonition. Old man, you have to keep your word. This is mine. As Chu Hen spoke, he hurriedly reached out to snatch the jade slip from Shifeng hand. Shifeng eyes narrowed, and he waved his sleeve to block Chu Hen. He then switched his hand to hold the jade slip tightly in his palm. Of course I keep my word. I'll definitely give it to you. Then why aren't you giving it to me? Don't be in such a hurry. I'll immediately give it to you after I make a copy. Shameless! Chu Hen scolded. Shifeng blew his beard and glared at Lin Fan. Brat, you destroyed my Luo Yin cloak. You should at least give me some compensation, right? Besides, it's not like I don't want to give it to you. The ancient books and secret scrolls recorded inside are all extremely profound rune techniques. You won't be able to understand them without 5 or 6 years. Wait for me to study them carefully, then I'll impart them to you. Isn't that killing 2 birds with 1 stone? Keep on bluffing. Chu Hen's face was filled with disdain and dissatisfaction. Shifeng was slightly helpless. Why are you so unreasonable? How about this? After we leave the ancient desolation heaven domain, we'll study this jade slip together. I'll definitely teach you everything I've learned. Chu Hen found it funny. He thought to himself that this old man was really obsessed with rune technique. For the sake of this jade scroll, he had actually put down his pride. However, Chu Hen was not surprised by this situation. After all, this was the first time the two of them had met. If they cooperated without understanding each other, it would be like asking a tiger for its hide. Fortunately, Shifeng was not a tiger. Otherwise, with his cultivation, he could have forcibly taken these things for himself instead of choosing to discuss with Chu Hen again and again. From the beginning until now, Chu Hen could practically be said to be a self-taught genius in the path of runic arts. If he could study with Shifeng after leaving the ancient desolate heaven domain, it would be a great opportunity. At this moment, Shifeng gaze had already sneaked a peek at the other 2 items. Damn you! Chu Hen loudly scolded. Then, with his sharp eyes and quick hands, he flashed in front of the white jade stone platform with lightning speed. With one hand, he scooped up an item and firmly held it in his hand. If you dare to compete with me again, I'll really fight you to the death, old man. Shifeng said with a smug and curious expression. Let me help you see what treasure it is. There's no need for you to come, I'll do it myself. Chu Hen turned his body to the side, his gaze first looking at the item in his left hand. It was a small square box with simple and unadorned workmanship. With a light flick of his finger, the lid of the box was opened. Along with a fresh fragrance that had been sealed for a long time, a 5-colored pill appeared before Chu Hen's eyes. Buzz, wisps of energy fluctuations were emitted from the pill, and a misty cyan light surrounded the pill, faintly transforming into the shadow of an immortal tree. Saint Fusion Pill. Shifeng obviously restrained himself and continued to say, How about selling it to me? I'll offer a saint weapon of the list and 100 billion high-grade origin crystal stones. The other party's sudden bid caused Chu Hen to be slightly shocked. Immediately, he asked calmly, This Saint Fusion Pill is worth so much? Nonsense. The minimum requirement to refine the Saint Fusion Pill is to be a heavenly inscription master. Moreover, looking at the color and clarity of the Saint Fusion Pill, it means that its quality is still high. How about it? Are you selling it? Not selling. Chu Hen rejected immediately. I'll add on another saint weapon of the list. Shifeng Zi did not give up. Chu Hen's handsome eyebrows raised. This old man really had a lot of treasures on him. However, this also proved the uniqueness of the Saint Fusion Pill. If you want me to give you this sacred fusion pill, that's fine too, really? Shifeng Zi's eyes lit up. However, Chu Hen's voice paused for a moment, then he pointed at the towering crystal tree in front of him that was like a god. Give it to me. Scram as far as you can. Forget it. Humph. Shifeng Zi sneered disdainfully. Even if you have 10 Saint Fusion pills, don't even think about taking the immortal talisman spirit tree. Chu Hen smiled and did not say anything else. After the jade slip and the Saint Fusion pill, the third item was a strange tree branch. The tree branch looked like a coral branch at the bottom of the sea. It was red and had a hard texture. It felt heavy in his hand. What is this? Chu Hen asked. Shifeng Zi glanced at it indifferently. There was not much change in his expression. Blood coral heart, is it worthless? Nonsense again. Are all the things that can be placed here dry? Shifeng Zi retorted, then continued, Did you pass through the blood forest when you came in? Yes. Chu Hen nodded. If you plant this blood coral heart in the ground, it will turn into a blood forest. What? Chu Hen's heart immediately lit up. When he entered, he had a deep understanding of the power of the blood forest. If he did not pass by, Dan Zhen and the people from the country of Conquering Cloud would have died there. The blood coral heart can be considered a priceless treasure to a sect or organization. It can form a dense defensive forest. Once an outsider invades, it will definitely be a very effective barrier, but… Shifeng Zi shook his head. To someone like me who has the world as my home and is free and unfettered, it's completely useless. No wonder. After hearing Shifeng Zi's explanation, Chu Hen could not help but laugh. He thought to himself, if a blood forest similar to this immortal prying platform was planted outside Mount Kunliu, how spectacular would it be? If an outsider invaded, how many people would be able to break through? After looking at these three items, Shifeng Zi's gaze returned to the immortal talisman spirit tree. Standing in front of this towering tree that was over 1,000 meters tall, it was truly spectacular. The sparkling and translucent tree trunk, the radiant branches and leaves, every leaf was like a dazzling star. It was a deluge of heavenly flowers, dazzling the eyes. Shifeng Zi walked forward step by step. His steps were steady and his eyes shone with excitement. When he walked under the tree, there was a thin layer of fog in the air, like ripples on the surface of water. Under Chu Hen's astonished gaze, Shifeng Zi slowly raised his left hand. Shing! With a trembling sound, a wisp of energy streaked across his palm. A wound of about 5 centimeters appeared on Shifeng Zi's left palm. Bright red blood flowed out. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, and his face revealed some astonishment. Following that, a powerful Reiki energy spread out from Shifeng Zi's Naiwen Palace. The vigorous Reiki energy gathered on his left arm, and with a flowing posture, it turned into a railing-shaped rune that looked a little like the word fence. This is? Chu Hen recognized this rune. It was a rune that fused one's own strength with some kind of spiritual treasure. Once the fusion was successful, the treasure would belong to only one person. It was equivalent to dripping a drop of blood to recognize the owner, forming a contract with the owner. The aura released by Shifeng Zi continued to strengthen. His left hand condensed, and the blood that flowed out formed threads of blood mist that revolved around the fence rune. In the next moment, the color of the rune changed from a magnificent gold to a strange red. Immediately after, Shifeng Zi extended his arm, and with the rune, he pressed his palm onto the trunk of the immortal talisman tree. Crash! In that instant, a strange energy fluctuation spread out in all directions. The leaves of the immortal talisman tree swayed, emitting a clear and melodious sound like a silver bell. light sparkled, dazzling, and caused the surrounding mountain peaks to be illuminated with a myriad of colors. Shifeng-Zi quickly circulated the Reiki energy, and the light around his body immediately turned red. Activate! Accompanied by a shout, a surging wave of air rose from Shifeng-Zi's left palm. Immediately after, rays of red light flowed out from his fingertips, and along the tree trunk, it extended up and down the immortal talisman tree. The spectacular and strange scene caused Chu Hen to be even more shocked. Although Shifeng-Zi, who was standing under the tree, seemed so small, his aura was so strong. The blood-colored light that flowed from his fingertips continuously spread along the surface of the immortal talisman tree, and the surface of the tree quickly lit up with exquisite and complicated runes. The blood-colored vines bypassed these runes, causing them to turn red one by one. They looked like the ancient inscriptions, and contained infinite mysteries and mysteries. Very quickly, the entire immortal talisman tree glowed with a faint red light. The ground of the entire Dao platform square trembled faintly, the sky changed color, and clouds surged. The towering tree was continuously enveloped by Shifeng-Zi's aura rumble. A series of heavy explosions rang out one after another, and the ground constantly cracked open like a spider's web. Immediately after, Shifeng-Zi raised his right hand again. Hiss! A ray of air flashed, and a cut appeared on his right palm once again. Fresh blood flowed out and fused with the Reiki energy, forming a second fence rune hum. Chapter 810. Buzz. When the second red rune was imprinted on the celestial talisman tree, a layer of vast light spread out like a ripple. Reiki energy that was mixed with traces of red light quickly spread out, like vines wandering around the entire body of the celestial talisman tree. In the blink of an eye, the entire celestial talisman tree was like an incomparably huge red birdcage. Heaven and earth changed color, clouds rolled. Dazzling light constantly blossomed and swayed, like a deluge of heavenly flowers, like millions of stars. The entire heaven and earth was completely illuminated by the dazzling light. Shifeng-Zi, who was under the celestial talisman tree, was tiny, but he was like a demonic ape with shocking godly strength. His head of black and white hair fluttered, and his clothes fluttered, showing off his extraordinary aura. Rumble, the ground unceasingly split open like a spider web, spreading in all directions. Every inch of stone bricks and mud shattered, flying wantonly. A piercingly cold and fierce air current struck Chu Hen's body. Looking at the scene before him, a faint cold light faintly flashed across Chu Hen's eyes. Currently, Shifeng-Zi could be said to be defenseless. If he made a move now, then this celestial talisman tree would be his. However, it was only a short thought before Chu Hen's eyes regained their calm. Although Chu Hen knew that he was not a gentleman, he was also not a treacherous person. He would not do something like secretly injuring someone. Moreover, did Shifeng-Zi really not have his guard up? Not necessarily. The other party could definitely be called an experienced person. With his thoughts, he would not leave his back to a person he had not known for long. Once he had evil thoughts, the first person to fall would most likely be himself. Chu Hen boy, stand firm, I'm going to harvest this spirit tree. The heroic and heavy voice was like thunder piercing the ears. Chu Hen's mind was startled, his pupils constricting slightly. In the next instant, the ground cracked and shook uneasily. Boom! A wave of monstrous Reiki energy shot into the sky like a fire pillar, its boundless aura shaking the world. In an instant, the 1,000-meter-tall immortal symbol tree was forcefully pulled out from the ground by Shifeng-Zi. The terrifying chi waves swept out in all directions with earth-shattering momentum. A thick layer of soil was directly scraped off. Together with the strong wind, it surged into the sky like a swarm of startled moths. What a powerful strength! Chu Hen secretly sucked in a breath of cold air and immediately released his true inner force to form a defensive shield in front of him. The crystal-like giant immortal talisman spirit tree was uprooted, countless tree roots were like awakened dragons, rushing out from the ground. Return! Shifeng Zi shouted loudly. The veins all over his body bulged and his old face was filled with excitement. Buzz, the waves surged and surged, blood markings covering the world. The immortal talisman tree shone brightly, tens of thousands of runes flickering in unison. Next, Shifeng Zi's Niwen palace opened wide as a bright luster blossomed from between his brows. Together with an extremely strong suction force, the immortal talisman spirit tree that was enveloped by the red runes rapidly turned into a shadow, becoming illusory and faintly discernible. Swoosh! Soon after, Shifeng Zi leapt up, directly flying 100 meters into the sky as a glorious sunlight erupted from his body. His arms spread out, as if he was embracing the heavens. The illusory immortal talisman spirit tree turned into a wisp of green light and directly surged towards the space between Shifeng Zi's brows. Shifeng Zi's Niwen palace was currently as vast as the sea, absorbing all the water from the 9 heavens. Buzz! In an instant, the enormous immortal talisman spirit tree was shockingly absorbed into Shifeng Zi's body. Magnificent beyond compare. The shocking scene caused Chu Hen to involuntarily sigh in his heart, while at the same time feeling much envy. After successfully seizing the immortal talisman spirit tree, Reiki energy churned outside Shifeng Zi's body. His entire body glowed as an extremely powerful force continuously leaked out. This was caused by the instability of the immortal talisman spirit tree's power. Even so, the other party's face was filled with intense joy. Rumble! However, before Shifeng Zi and Chu Hen could prepare what would happen next, the ground suddenly caved in. A black hole had appeared where the immortal talisman spirit tree had previously been. The size of the sinkhole continued to expand as the ground crumbled inch by inch. The hole was like a giant mouth that led to hell, a bottomless abyss. Bang! Before Chu Hen could react, a dark pillar of light surged out from the abyss. Heaven and earth trembled, and deep cracks appeared on the surrounding mountain peaks and cliffs. Shifeng Zi, who was in the sky, hurriedly retreated. As for the ground beneath Chu Hen's feet, it collapsed like tofu, revealing a bottomless abyss below. Chu Hen directly collapsed the ground and floated above the abyss. Go! Shifeng Zi loudly shouted. This was the only thought in Chu Hen's mind. In a hurry, he hurriedly retreated. However, before Chu Hen could retreat in time, a boundless tide-like gray light once again surged out from the abyss below, directly enveloping Chu Hen within. In the next instant, an irresistible gravitational force filled every inch of Chu Hen's skin. Under the pressure of an extremely heavy burden, the terrifying gravity was like an invisible giant hand, forcibly dragging Chu Hen down, straight into the bottomless abyss. Chu Hen, you brat! Shifeng Zi's expression changed. He frowned and watched helplessly as Chu Hen was dragged into the bottom of the abyss. A wisp of helplessness and a faint sense of shame surged in his heart. Shifeng Zi helplessly sighed. I'm sorry, I can't do anything. Although he had just met Chu Hen, as someone from the 100 Nations Prefecture, he more or less felt a little guilty. However, things had already come to this, and everything was useless. Immediately, Shifeng Zi sighed again and shook his head. Then, his figure moved, turning into a ray of flowing light and disappearing into the boundless clouds and mist. What a shocking movement! At this moment, in the storm of power from the Earth-Heaven 4 Kills formation, a gorgeous lotus surrounded by 7-colored light was steadily and quickly shuttling through the world of ice and fire. This lotus was more than 10 meters wide, and the colorful light it emitted formed a 7-colored bubble-like shield, isolating the impact of the Earth-Heaven 4 Kills formation. There were 3 people standing on the lotus seat, 2 men and a woman. The trio's faces were filled with bewilderment. Look, one of the green-clothed men shouted as he pointed at the mountain range in front of him. The scene that was reflected in front of them was exceptionally shocking. The vast platform square that originally existed at the center of the mountain range was no longer there, only a huge crater that continuously surged with gray waves of air was left. chaotic and violent energy fluctuations were continuously released from within the crater, and the vortex between heaven and earth caused waves of unrest in the surrounding space. Swish! Then, the lotus sped up and swept across the sky, arriving at the top of one of the mountain ranges. Looking down from above, the deep and dark abyss was like a huge mouth, waiting for its prey to come knocking on its door. The ice-cold aura had a bone-piercing chill. It was daunting. Looking at the scene in front of them, the faces of the three were somewhat dim. "Looks like the immortal seal tree has been taken by someone else," the young woman said. Although her tone was indifferent, one could hear the disappointment in it. The two middle-aged men looked at each other, their eyes suffused with a cold light. The green-clothed man said coldly, "I didn't expect that someone would be a step faster than us. Who exactly is this person?" The young woman shook her head. "The person who's able to solve the illusion of the immortal prying platform at the first possible moment, pass through the Earth-Heaven 4-kill formation, and seize the immortal seal tree has probably already reached the level of a heavenly inscription master." Heavenly inscription master? Both of their expressions were slightly astonished. "What do we do next?" the other man asked. The green-clothed man's gaze slanted as he pointed at the bottomless abyss below and said, "I think that person shouldn't be much earlier than us. Maybe he's hiding somewhere." "Oh? Miss Lon, I'll go down and check if that person is hiding inside." "No, Uncle Ko." The young woman stopped him without hesitation and said, "This is the core of the Earth-Heaven 4-kill formation, and it's also the place where the energy is the most concentrated. Once one falls into the core of the formation, even a heavenly inscription master can forget about escaping. That person is absolutely not ignorant enough to hide below." The green-clothed man's face was slightly pale, and his gaze couldn't help but be filled with fear when he looked at the black abyss again. After pondering for a short while, the young woman's gaze turned slightly cold as she said, "Let's go out now." The two of them were slightly stunned. "Don't tell me we're going to give up just like this?" "The person who took the immortal seal tree is surely one of those people outside. As long as we see who's missing from those sects, we'll be able to know who's already solved the illusion from before, and that person is the greatest suspect." "Exactly. Miss Lon is indeed extraordinarily intelligent. We have to hurry back. Don't let that person escape first." Immediately, the three of them once again rode on the lotus seat that was like an auspicious cloud and headed back the way they came. Chapter 8:11. Buzz, it was like a dream, real and fake. At this moment, Chu Hen felt as if he had fallen into a quagmire abyss that was difficult to get out of. In the process of falling, all kinds of violent forces were like majestic waves, surging violently like a shocking tsunami. Chu Hen was like a butterfly that was drawn into a hurricane. His whole body was torn apart and attacked by those terrifying forces. Bang! Boom! All kinds of forces tore and collided, causing Chu Hen's whole body to feel as if it had been slashed by a sword. The astral wind waves were like blades. Chu Hen couldn't even open his eyes. He only felt that he was in the center of the whirlpool, constantly enduring the destructive attacks from all directions. The only thing he could do was to release all the true origin energy in his body, and do his best to protect all the vital parts of his body. In the storm, the small boat was like a leaf. Bang! After an unknown amount of time, along with the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground, Chu Hen felt that his body had finally stopped. However, the remaining trace of consciousness was especially fuzzy. His brain was spinning, the pain all over his body had long since become numb, and his body no longer felt like it was his own. At this moment, Chu Hen only had the thought of falling asleep. How many injuries did he suffer? Chu Hen didn't know. Even opening his eyelids was an extremely difficult thing to do. It was too tiring. This kind of extreme weakness was like being on the verge of death. The seriously damaged true origin energy in his body was like a dried-up riverbed, full of desolation, cracks, showing the aura of decay and death. Chu Hen just lay there quietly, his left hand pressed under his body, his fingertips touching the soil. It was slightly cold and somewhat loose. The pain stimulated his nerves, and Chu Hen subconsciously pierced his fingers into the soil. The ice-cold soil actually had a negligible effect on the pain, and immediately after, Chu Hen pierced his entire palm into the soil. At this moment, Chu Hen's fingertips actually touched a piece of solid material. It looked like a rock, but it wasn't. Chu Hen didn't have the time to investigate, and he didn't even have the strength to open his eyes again. The last trace of consciousness was extinguished like a candle in the wind, and he fell into a deep sleep. However, a second before Chu Hen fainted, he vaguely sensed a stream of energy surging out from the ground like a clear spring and flowing into his body through his fingertip. Silence ruled over everything. The darkness was like a nightmare. Boom! As if he had woken up from a dream, Chu Hen suddenly opened his eyes. What entered his eyes was an endless darkness. What was going on? Where am I? After a pause of about 3 seconds, the memories from before he fainted came flooding back like a tidal wave. Chu Hen subconsciously sat up. He couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air due to the pain. The injuries on his body were still there, and the pain was still there. However, Chu Hen's eyes lit up. The true origin energy in his body was very abundant, and his mind was clear and energetic. Strange. Chu Hen knew how half-dead he was before he fainted, and it was impossible for him to recover so well just by sleeping. Could it be? Chu Hen's mind lit up, and he put his hands into the soil and began to search. Very quickly, Chu Hen's fingertips came into contact with a piece of hard material. While he was secretly confused, Chu Hen continuously pulled out the soil on both sides, trying to dig out that thing, but the further he dug, the bigger the thing became. It was like an old vine buried deep in the ground, and the more he dug, the deeper he dug. Not long after, Chu Hen had dug more than 10 meters, but it was still like he had only found the tip of the iceberg of this mysterious object. This, Chu Hen's mind trembled. Could it be? Boom! In an instant, a cloud of holy light dispersed the darkness between heaven and earth like a miracle. Chu Hen's pupils rapidly shrank from their dilated state, and a dreamlike scene began to appear in front of him. Tens of thousands of rays of light were like a meteor shower in the sky, dazzling and dazzling. A few hundred meters in front of Chu Hen, an incomparably majestic and huge crystal tree appeared in front of him like a god. This is? Indescribable shock and excitement surged in Chu Hen's heart. His pupils trembled continuously, and his vision was greatly impacted. The crystal tree was covered with resplendent and complicated runes. The luxuriant treetop was like a cloud, and the branches and leaves were colorful. Every leaf was like the stars in the sky, beautiful and dazzling. Feeling the rich immortal chi emitted from the huge tree, Chu Hen was completely shocked. Immortal Spirit Tree. It's actually the second immortal spirit tree. The towering tree in front of him looked almost the same as the immortal spirit tree that Shifeng had taken, but the difference was that the height of this immortal spirit tree was more than twice the height of the previous one. Chu Hen was below it, and it was difficult for him to see its full appearance. He felt as if he was placed under the 5 great mountains. With the immortal spirit tree as the center, the ground flickered with dragon-like light vines. The light vines spread wantonly and passed under Chu Hen's feet like a huge net. Chu Hen shook his head in amazement and looked at the light vine below him. Very clearly, he had touched a section of the root of this immortal spirit tree. It was really a blessing in disguise. He had carelessly been swept into the eye of the 4 kills of Earth-Heaven formation, but he had never thought that there would be another immortal spirit tree hidden here. Moreover, in comparison, the immortal spirit tree that Shifeng had taken could not be compared to the one in front of him. The flourishing and resplendent light illuminated Chu Hen's eyes, causing him to be in high spirits. But amidst his pleasant surprise, Chu Hen quickly calmed down. After all, this was definitely not a good place. Immediately, Chu Hen started to inspect the surrounding situation. Around half an hour later, Chu Hen was sure that he had fallen into the eye of the 4 kills of Earth-Heaven formation. The area they were in now was like an isolated island isolated by violent energy. The surroundings of this island were filled with lava flames, cold streams of ice, death rays and many other extremely destructive and chaotic energies in the air. Chu Hen raised his head to look at the space above him. There, ice and fire mixed together, and beams of light that were like sharp arrows crisscrossed each other. Among them, there was even a mysterious devouring hole that was like the eye of space. Seeing this, it wasn't difficult for Chu Hen to understand why he was so heavily injured. It could even be said that he was extremely lucky to have this kind of injury. If it wasn't for the protection of the 2 great bloodlines, even being torn to pieces was reasonable. If he charged in forcefully, he would surely be courting death. Chu Hen's eyes slightly focused, and he lightly shook his head. His gaze once again returned to the center of the formation that was like an island. The immortal spirit tree stood towering there like a god, displaying the myriad of flourishing stars. Chapter 8:12. The immortal talisman tree flourished. It was as resplendent as a beautiful galaxy. Millions of rays of light danced in the sky. Under the immortal talisman tree, it was as if Chu Hen was facing a divine star that shone brightly, seeming extremely small, falling into the abyss, into the heart of the array. Many terrifying chaotic energies were like a storm, isolating this area into a lone island. If Chu Hen wanted to escape from here, his only hope was on the immortal talisman tree in front of him. Traces of light energy pulsated in this space. Chu Hen sat under the huge tree. His pair of eyes surged with dense graveness, as well as a few traces of excitement and heat. Very evidently, to be able to unexpectedly find a immortal talisman tree here, it was definitely a great surprise. He did not know what Shifeng would think if he knew of this. Suddenly, Chu Hen clasped his palms together, his 10 fingers intersecting, forming a seal. Activate. Buzz, with a light shout from Chu Hen, the space instantly trembled. A beautiful light immediately appeared on the ground. Intersecting runes and numbers were arranged in an orderly manner around the immortal talisman tree. The bright runes were connected from head to tail, like an arc of lightning, instantly forming a rune array with a diameter of over 100 feet. This was the Great Spirit Gathering Array that Chu Hen had used nearly 3 million high-grade primal crystal stones to set up. Chu Hen was very clear of the difference between him and Shifeng. To directly collect the immortal talisman tree was absolutely difficult to accomplish. Once the Great Spirit Gathering Array was activated, it would continuously provide Chu Hen with a huge amount of energy as support. In this way, the difficulty would also be greatly reduced. Incomparably resplendent rays of light shot into the sky. The vast and majestic golden spirit energy was like a spirit spring water that came from all directions, surging towards Chu Hen's body. In an instant, Chu Hen seemed to be bathed in auspicious clouds and holy light, and his whole body was surrounded by abundant golden light. Then, Chu Hen stood up, his eyes filled with unswerving determination. With every step he took, a thin layer of light ripples spread out from his feet. When Chu Hen was less than half a meter away from the immortal symbol tree, he gently raised his left hand. Reiki energy revolved around it, and a wisp of sharp qi appeared out of nowhere. It streaked across his palm at lightning speed, and along with a wound, fresh blood flowed out. Under Chu Hen's control, the blood began to fuse with the Reiki energy. Soon, it condensed into a strange rune that was similar to the word grid. The gorgeous runes turned from gold to red, swaying in the air like an enchanting candle, giving off a strange aura. Then, Chu Hen held the rune in his palm and slowly but steadily imprinted it on the tree trunk. A layer of water ripples swept out along the surface of the tree trunk. Immediately after, Chu Hen activated the Reiki energy and quickly dispersed it. Streaks of red stripes were released from Chu Hen's palm, coming out from his fingertip. Then, like vines that grew wantonly, they stuck to the bark of the immortal symbol tree and extended in all directions. Wherever the red light pattern went, the tree trunk would blossom with all sorts of strange and complicated runes and numbers. The mysterious and ancient patterns were like the ever-changing secret incantations, and were extremely dazzling. Hiss! Then, Chu Hen's right palm was once again cut open by a wisp of qi. Fresh blood flowed out, and the second red grid rune faintly appeared. Just like before, the second rune was once again imprinted on the immortal symbol tree. Hua! A powerful wave of air spread out, and streaks of light patterns rapidly entangled the branches of the immortal symbol tree, like a rope trapping it. The beginning was much smoother than expected. This caused Chu Hen's confidence to increase. But, very quickly the blow came. The red light pattern only extended for a distance of about 100 meters before it slowed down. An invisible resistance prevented Chu Hen's power from continuing to advance. However, Chu Hen was already prepared. Hum hum. The Great Spirit Gathering formation began to quickly operate. With Chu Hen as the center, the light on the ground was dazzling, and the glyph array flickered. The high-grade crystal stones that were distributed everywhere flickered like stars. A vast and majestic power that was comparable to a flood immediately poured into Chu Hen's body. Waves of air stacked, and wind and thunder rumbled. The barrier that obstructed Chu Hen was instantly smashed, and the unstoppable Reiki energy crushed down. The red light pattern crazily grew and extended, wrapping around the branches of the immortal symbol tree. Under the support of the Spirit Gathering formation, Chu Hen's aura greatly increased. The immortal talisman spirit tree also exploded with a brilliant holy light. In the sky above the immortal symbol tree, dense fog surged, and the entire island was filled with boundless spiritual energy. Thousands of rays of light were like illusions. As the power of the runes spread and locked down, Chu Hen's power was quickly being consumed. When the red light pattern reached the 1,000-meter area, Chu Hen's rhythm slowed down once again. However, this was only half of the entire immortal symbol tree. The further it went, the more difficult it was to control. The pressure that Chu Hen was enduring was also constantly increasing and magnifying. In the end, he still underestimated this immortal symbol tree. Shifeng Zi's cultivation far surpassed his, and the two of them could not be compared on the same level. Thinking about it, if he did not take down this immortal symbol tree, he would not be able to leave this place. Moreover, there were still many things waiting for him to do in the ancient, desolate heaven domain. Immediately gritting his teeth, Chu Hen once again released all the power in his body, and released an even more powerful Reiki energy. Qi. Hua. The red light pattern was like a vine as it wrapped around the immortal symbol tree. During this process, Chu Hen's blood continuously entered the immortal symbol tree, trying to become one with it. However, the further it went, the slower the red vine extended. When it reached a distance of 1,200 meters, it was as slow as a tortoise. The formless pressure was as heavy as Mount Tai, and as heavy as a river. Even though the spirit gathering array was still continuously providing dense spiritual energy, it was like trying to put out a cart of firewood with a cup of water. It was completely insufficient for Chu Hen. Failure seemed to be an inevitable outcome. But just at that moment, a resolute light flashed through the corner of Chu Hen's eyes. I can only do this. Chu Hen's heart moved, and a strand of white light shot out from his sleeve. Within the white light, a simple and unadorned small box opened. Within the box, a 5-colored elixir appeared. Outside the elixir, there was a dense green glow. The green glow floated, forming a strange shadow of a tree. Saint Fusion Elixir. The second treasure he had obtained outside. Shifeng Zi had proposed to Chu Hen to exchange 2 sacred weapons and 100 billion high-grade primordial crystal stones for the elixir, even though Chu Hen did not think of using it so quickly. In reality, he could no longer find another way. Swish! The sacred fusion elixir drew a faint arc in the air and steadily fell into Chu Hen's mouth. The cool feeling was like a stream of clear spring water flowing into his stomach. After about 5 seconds, there was a muffled rumble, and a monstrous power that was comparable to the eruption of a torrent surged out of Chu Hen's body. Thousands of light beams bloomed from Chu Hen's body. The incomparably powerful Reiki energy immediately filled Chu Hen's Naiwan palace and his entire body. His meridians, blood, flesh, and marrow felt like they were about to explode. Damn it! He had underestimated the power of the sacred fusion elixir. Chu Hen cried out in alarm. The extremely powerful energy caused his blood vessels to bulge and his skin to crack. He could not suppress it at all. In less than 10 seconds, Chu Hen had already become a bloody person. Dense Reiki energy continuously leaked out and splashed everywhere. Even so, Chu Hen's hands did not leave the immortal talisman spirit tree. The power of a small sacred fusion elixir was comparable to a torrent of the sea. With the support of this power, the speed of the red light increased again. Like a horned python, it continued to extend towards the area above the spirit tree. The consumption of the immortal talisman spirit tree caused the pressure the sacred fusion elixir had on Chu Hen to gradually decrease. Whether or not he could take down this immortal talisman spirit tree before the sacred fusion elixir's power was exhausted was still a great challenge for Chu Hen. The outcome was still unknown. Time ticked by. After an unknown amount of time, the entire island flickered with a faint red light. Outside the immortal talisman spirit tree, there seemed to be an incomparably huge red birdcage enveloping it. Such a majestic scene was even more spectacular than when Shifeng Zi had seized the first immortal talisman spirit tree. The sky changed color and the wind and clouds surged. Chu Hen stood under the spirit tree, looking like a boulder statue. The blood on his body had long since dried up. A faint Reiki energy surrounded his arms. It was as faint as a veil, faintly discernible. The spirit-gathering formation that was set up below had long since stopped operating. The ground was filled with the remains of the primal crystal stones that had been used up. Only the last step was left. Difficult, tenacious. It had already been close to 4 hours. The red light had stopped moving and had entered a state of stillness. Fight! Chu Hen shouted in his heart. Following that, the veins on his arms bulged. The last of the Reiki energy in his Naiwan palace was released without reservation. Purple light and black light surged out of Chu Hen's body at the same time. They were like flames that rushed into the sky. The immortal talisman spirit tree released a sacred light. Its branches and leaves swayed, dazzling and dazzling. Following that, Chu Hen clenched his palms and firmly held onto the immortal talisman spirit tree. The force of 1,000 caddies was like thunder. I, Chu Hen, will be your master. The momentum was shocking, shaking the heavens and earth. Rumble, in a split second, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. Chu Hen was like a fiend god holding up a mountain. The power that erupted in an instant was like a landslide or a tsunami. One after another, cracks spread out under his feet. Buzz! The red light intertwined, forming a huge birdcage. With the force of a thunderbolt, it forcefully uprooted the immortal talisman spirit tree that supported the sky. The earth collapsed and the soil was overturned. One after another, sturdy roots, like an awakened horned dragon, sprang out from the soil one after another. Spiderweb-like cracks appeared under Chu Hen's feet. And in Chu Hen's eyes, there was only the immortal talisman spirit tree. Chapter 8:13. Rumble. The instant the immortal talisman tree was uprooted by Chu Hen, the mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The chaotic and berserk energy directly caused the island below to split into countless crisscrossing deep cracks. Next, it was like a chain reaction. The world spun, the earth shook, and the universe seemed to be turned upside down. The operation of the entire Earth-Heaven 4-kill formation was immediately thrown into chaos. Flames, lava, cold storms, deathly rays, and mysterious devouring holes, all collapsed and wantonly mixed together. The intense collision was like the destruction of stars. However, Chu Hen seemed to not notice the things around him. His attention was only on the immortal talisman tree. Rumble. Dense multicolored light that was as vast as the sea gathered in the sky. Chu Hen leaped up, his clothes fluttered in the wind. His eyes were like stars as he stood proudly in the sky. Both of his eyes revealed the power of the vast ocean. He extended a hand towards the immortal talisman tree in front of him and shouted in a deep voice. Retract. Buzz, holy light erupted, igniting the entire place. The enormous crystal tree emitted a dazzling luster that flickered between bright and dark. Its solid tree body quickly became illusory and transparent, like an image. Following that, Chu Hen's Niwen palace opened wide, and a bright light was released from between his brows. Buzz buzz, the red birdcage that trapped the immortal talisman tree rapidly shrank, forming two enormous fence-shaped rune patterns. Immediately after, the immortal talisman tree immediately turned into a ray of light, directly flying towards the space between Chu Hen's brows, and instantly submerged within. Boom! Once the immortal talisman tree entered his body, Chu Hen felt as if he was struck by lightning, his body violently trembling. An unprecedented vast and majestic aura erupted from Chu Hen's body. Dense golden light constantly swallowed and spat out from Chu Hen's body as if bathed in holy light and imbued with divine light. At this moment, the unforeseen event at the heart of the Earth-Heaven 4-kill formation directly brought about an unimaginable change to the entire Immortal Prying Platform area. Immortal Prying Platform. Rumble, thunder rumbled, mountains crumbled, and earth cracked. Imposing platforms collapsed with a loud bang. What's going on? Why are we here? Huh? Didn't you die earlier? Why are you still alive? No, I'm not dead either, right? On the immortal prying platform, numerous figures seemed as if they'd awoken from a dream, and they suddenly woke up from the illusion. Heaven Imperial Court, Heavenly Bamboo Peak, Country of Conquering Cloud, Mount Kunliu, the Liao clan, and everyone else looked at each other in confusion. Looking at the surroundings, some of them were confused, but it didn't take long for them to come to a realization. We've been outside the whole time. We were under an illusion. This is too strange. So, it's an illusion. Haha. It seems I'm still alive. The people of the major forces who woke up one after another had different feelings. Some were surprised, and some were happy. For those who had died fighting against the terracotta soldiers, rattan armored soldiers, and stone giants, the moment the illusion was broken, it was as if they had walked out of the nightmare of death and obtained a new life. His excitement was self-evident. However, before the crowd had much time to recover from their shock, a shocking change akin to the end of the world followed closely behind. Rumble. The heavens fell and the earth cracked. Thunderclouds raged. The 4 energy crystal pillars on the immortal prying platform emitted a dazzling radiance that could seize the heavens and the earth. Immediately after, the 4 huge energy light pillars were covered in crack. Then, like the collapsing pillars of the sky, they broke inch by inch and fell to the ground. F***CK, are we still in the illusion? Have we not gotten over it yet? I don't know. Why don't you try dying again? Try your grandpa, why don't you try? Stop talking nonsense, hurry up and retreat. In an instant, the entire immortal prying platform fell into chaos. Heaven Imperial Court's Xiaomang, Heavenly Bamboo Peak's Lin Yuman, Liao Clan's Li Wu, and Mount Kunliu's Lung Lingyan, Shanzhen, and the others led the crowd to retreat. Rumble. Clang. Thunder surged from the 9 heavens, and the nebulous storm was like a divine punishment. The space trembled uneasily, and the heaven and earth seemed to be about to leave the body. The continuous violent tremors set off all kinds of terrifying shock waves that could topple mountains and overturn seas. With the immortal prying platform as the center, flames soared into the sky, ice and snow flew together, and there were even extremely penetrating death rays that swept out, mountain after mountain was crushed, and the layers of the platform collapsed. The incomparably powerful astral wind waves constantly injured the crowd. The torrent of wind was like a ferocious beast opening its bloody mouth. In an instant, miserable screams rang out, and the crowd only cared about running for their lives. The soaring energy filled the heaven and earth, and the wind swept away the clouds. In just a few blinks of an eye, the area within a 10,000-meter radius of the immortal prying platform was directly turned into ruins. Moreover, the turbulence was still ongoing. The killing heavens-earth four deaths formation actually collapsed. How strange! On the peak of a mountain far away, three figures looked at the unforeseen event in front of them, and their eyes were filled with surprise. Perhaps it has something to do with the loss of the immortal talisman spirit tree. The young woman standing in front said thoughtfully, "That immortal talisman spirit tree is very likely to be used to suppress the killing heavens-earth four deaths formation. Once the immortal talisman spirit tree is lost, the balance of the formation's power will be broken, and all the runes on the immortal prying platform will collapse." The two middle-aged men behind her nodded. "Miss Lon, what should we do next? Did you guys find out who had already broken the illusion before this?" The two middle-aged men looked at each other, and one of them said, in reply to Miss Lon, "We have indeed found someone who is not in his group." Oh! Rocks collapsed, and the mountains were destroyed. In the blink of an eye, the immortal prying platform was reduced to a land filled with dust and smoke. Many people who were fleeing in all directions were hit by the chaotic energy of the runes, and their flesh and blood splattered in all directions. Not even their bones were left. The unforeseen event had come so unexpectedly. The illusion from before had caused the people who came here this time to return empty-handed. That was close. This place is really King strange. In the Mount Kunliu team, Su Lang patted his chest with a slightly pale face, and his heart palpitated. "I didn't do anything here, but I had a dream." Danjun also smiled helplessly. "Wait a minute. Where's Chu Hen?" At this moment, Chi Ting could not help but exclaim loudly. Everyone's heart could not help but tremble. Indeed, everyone in the Mount Kunliu team was here, except for Chu Hen. "Are we still in the illusion?" a Mount Kunliu disciple asked doubtfully. Previously, in the illusion, Chu Hen had fought against Xiao Mang, Li Wu, and Ying Sha alone. In the end, he was devoured and killed by Ying Sha's killer move, Hell Yellow Spring Marsh. In the illusion, Chu Hen had already met with a disaster. "That's not possible." Danjun's eyes narrowed, and she said in a low voice, "Those who died in the illusion have all been resurrected. This is definitely the real world." The reason why an illusion was because it was an illusion created by one's willpower. Once one's willpower was firm, it would be very difficult for an illusion to have too much of an effect on one's willpower. Therefore, this was the real world, and there was no need to doubt it. However, where did Chu Hen go? Why was he missing? What should they do next? Everyone looked at Lung Lingyan with questioning gazes. However, Lung Lingyan gave a very surprising answer. Chapter 8:14. Rumble. The realm of the immortal prying platform was dark. The world was spinning, and the sky was shaking. In just a blink of an eye, the entire immortal prying platform was reduced to ruins by the violent energy that was comparable to a landslide or tsunami. Dust filled the air, and the wind blew away the clouds. People from all directions fled for their lives. Those who were severely injured screamed in pain. "Let's leave this place first." Just when everyone in Mount Kunlu was puzzled by Chu Hen's disappearance, Lung Lingyan said something that surprised everyone with a resolute tone. "What about Chu Hen? Are we going to ignore him?" a Mount Kunlu's disciple asked. Lung Lingyan narrowed her eyes and said in a deep voice, "I think he'll find us. But, stop talking. Let's leave immediately." Lung Lingyan's tone was unquestionable. Everyone's expression changed slightly when they sensed her majestic aura. They no longer hesitated and quickly left with Lung Lingyan. However, just as she rose into the air, a cold and eerie shadow blade suddenly descended from the sky. It was like a bolt of lightning that cut off Lung Lingyan's path. Lung Lingyan's expression changed slightly. She immediately stopped and dodged. Rumble! The peerlessly powerful shadow blade slashed diagonally at a ruined mountain range below, instantly splitting it into two from the middle. "Everyone, where are you going?" Following that, a cold voice sounded. Subsequently, the sky in front of Lung Lingyan distorted. Along with the floating gray afterimage, a cold and eerie figure appeared. His cold eyes were like a tiger looking at a flock of sheep. The eerie smile on his face was full of mockery. The people from Mount Kuan-Lu frowned. Shan Zhen took a step forward and said sternly, "Insha, I'm afraid you can't afford to offend our Mount Kuan-Lu with your ability. If you don't want to be hunted down by our sect in the future, you'd better scram." As the trump-card assassin of the Eastern Victory State, his name was indeed terrifying. However, in terms of background, Insha could not withstand Mount Kuan-Lu's wrath at all. However, a disdainful laugh followed. "Ha ha ha ha, is Mount Kunliu that amazing?" In the next instant, Xiao Mang led the Heaven Unified Dynasties group from the south. Xiao Mang held the holy cleaving axe in his hand. His clothes fluttered in the wind, giving him an extraordinary appearance. Bang! At the same time, a mountain peak in the north collapsed and exploded. 3 sturdy giants rushed over amidst the flying rock. The surging evil aura was like a giant devil from hell blocking the way. "With my Liao clan here, don't even think about leaving Mount Kuan-Lu alive today." In front of him was the Shadow Killer, on the left was the Heaven Unified Dynasty, and on the right was the Fong clan giant. In an instant, the people of Mount Kunliu once again fell into a three-way siege. Lung Lingyan's brows furrowed in a solemn manner. This was exactly what he was worried about. He wanted to take advantage of the chaos to escape, but he didn't expect the enemy to be so fast. "Where's that bastard? Where did he hide it?" The Liao clan strength shaman shouted fiercely. Insha, Xiao Mang, and the others were surprised to find that Chu Hen was the only one missing from Mount Kunliu's group. They couldn't help but feel confused. "He's already gone," Lung Lingyan replied calmly without batting an eyelid. "Southwest. If you chase after him now, you might be able to catch up." Shan Zhen, Su Lang, and the others were stunned. They didn't know why Lung Lingyan would say this. However, after thinking about it calmly, they quickly understood her intentions. "Oh? He would abandon you guys and escape by himself?" Xiao Mang held his axe with one hand and crossed his arms in front of him. Lung Lingyan raised her beautiful eyes slightly and said nonchalantly, "When life is at stake, people are selfish. He was the one who took away the Draining God Spear and killed your Liao clan's companions. I think these things have nothing to do with us." Hearing Lung Lingyan trying her best to distance herself from Chu Hen, the surrounding people couldn't help but feel surprised. "Ha ha ha ha." However, Xiao Mang laughed heartily. "I've long heard that Lung Lingyan from Mount Kunliu's Void Temple is extraordinarily intelligent. You're calm even if Mount Tai collapses before you. Now that I've seen you, the rumors are indeed true. Unfortunately, I, Xiao Mang, am not a 3-year-old child. You can't fool me." Lung Lingyan smiled indifferently. "It's up to you whether you believe me or not. The more time you waste here, the further he'll run." "Humph, I almost believed your nonsense." Swoosh. At this moment, the people from Sky Bamboo Peak and Country of Conquering Cloud arrived. "Sir Xiao Mang, can you let them go for Lin Yuman's sake?" Her soft voice was like rain and silk. It was a little surprising that Sky Bamboo Peak would intervene at this time. Xiao Mang snorted coldly and replied frivolously, "What if I say no?" Before Lin Yuman could reply, Yun He, who was next to her, said in a low voice, "Junior Sister Lin, this matter involves the conflict between the sections. It's best for Sky Bamboo Peak not to intervene, but Mount Kunlia helped us before." The one who spoke was Chun Ro from Country of Conquering Cloud. Humph, how can a small favor be compared to a major sect matter? Yunhee looked at her coldly and shouted at Chun Ro to back off. With the current situation, even if we lend a hand, it's useless. Why seek trouble for ourselves? From the beginning, Yunhee had disliked Chu Hen. He also held a grudge against Mount Kunliu. It was already good enough that he did not hit them when they were down. Moreover, the treasure of Country of Conquering Cloud, the Heaven's Blade, was still with Chu Hen. Due to her relationship with Lung Lingyan, Lin Yuman did not directly ask Chu Hen for the Heaven's Blade. However, if Chu Hen was in danger and was killed by others, she could take back the Heaven's Blade without any worries. Therefore, regardless of the reason, Sky Bamboo Peak did not need to win the championship. Xiao Meng sneered coldly. Junior sister Lin, do what you want to do. I don't have time to waste here. Lin Yuman clenched her hands into fists. A hint of coldness flashed across her eyes. At this moment, a calm voice dispelled Lin Yuman's hostility. I don't need your help, huh? Everyone was stunned. The person who said this was none other than Lung Lingyan herself. The other party's eyes were as clear as water, not a single ripple could be seen as she calmly said such a sentence. Lin Yuman and the people from the heavenly bamboo peak were even more astonished. One should know that Lung Lingyan was facing 3 powerful opponents who were at the 6th level of the Earth Profound Realm. Only with the help of the heavenly bamboo peak could they have a chance of survival. Otherwise, they would be instantly annihilated. You? Lin Yuman frowned. Do you still want face at this time? Lung Lingyan shook her head. I've never been one to care about face. Plus, I've never lost to you, Buzz. As soon as she finished speaking, a shapeless wave of air spread out from Lung Lingyan's body. Between heaven and earth, a faint, obscure rhythm was formed. How interesting, in the sky. Ing Sha's lips curled into a disdainful smile. Then, his body moved and swept towards Lung Lingyan like a phantom. Leave this woman to me. Xiao Mang and Li Wu responded with a cold smile. They had no intention of making the first move. With Ing Sha's strength, it was more than enough to deal with Lung Lingyan. Moreover, Xiao Mang did not believe that Chu Hen had already left this place. He must be hiding somewhere. As long as they subdued and killed all the people from Mount Kunliu, Chu Hen would definitely not be able to hide and would definitely show himself. Whoosh! Like a shadow, like a ghost, Ing Sha turned into a blurry gray shadow and appeared in front of Lung Lingyan. To be honest, I rarely kill women, especially these beautiful women. Hiss! Accompanied by the sound of air being cut through, a sharp crystal pillar flew out from the gray fog. The cold blade went straight for Lung Lingyan's heart. Ing Sha's aura was peerless, but Lung Lingyan's body did not have the slightest fluctuation of primordial energy. Facing the opponent's powerful attack, Lung Lingyan stretched out her jade-like palm. More than a dozen white air waves gathered in her palm and rotated and intertwined. Bang! Her palm fell and hit the tip of the crystal pillar. Everyone thought that with Ing Sha's strength, this attack would probably be able to penetrate Lung Lingyan's palm. However, this did not happen. All they saw was a burst of light, and the crystal pillar's sharp spear actually broke into pieces. Dual void force. Lung Lingyan let out a soft cry. In the next instant, a second wave of astonishing palm force followed closely behind. A wave of power that was like an undercurrent in the deep sea erupted from a single point and landed firmly on the misty shadow that Shadow Killer had transformed into. Bang! The space trembled violently. Thousands of light shadows flew everywhere. The fog was like a shattered water ball, bursting into countless light spots. Not good. Not only did the people from Mount Kunliu not feel excited when they shattered the fog formed by Ing Sha with a single palm, they turned pale with fright. Senior Sister Lingyan, retreat quickly. It's too late. A cold voice reverberated from all directions. Buzz! As soon as Lung Lingyan finished speaking, the trembling space around her began to distort in a dreamlike manner. In the next second, strange crystal walls appeared out of thin air around her. The mirror-like walls were so bright that one could see one's reflection. They were dozens of meters tall and more than 10 meters wide. Front, back, left, right, up and down, the countless ice crystal mirror walls immediately transformed into a huge rhombus-shaped space. It was dazzling and radiant, yet it hid infinite killing intent, ice-mirrored Devil Palace. This was the ultimate skill that Ing was famous for. It was rumored that in the entire Eastern Victory State, thousands of Earth-profound stage powerhouses had died in this ice-mirrored Devil Palace. The scene that appeared on Chu Hen's body in the illusion immediately fell on Lung Lingyan's body. Welcome to the ice-mirrored Devil Palace. Inside the rhombus-shaped space, Lung Lingyan seemed to be in a palace of mirrors. Indifferent figures continuously appeared on the mirrors around her. Countless Ing appeared in the mirrors as though they were about to sentence Lung Lingyan to death. Chapter 8:15. It's a pity. This time, it's not an illusion. A cold voice, like the pronouncement of the Grim Reaper, came from every mirror in all directions. Ice Mirror Demonic Palace. The huge rhombus-shaped space trapped Lung Lingyan inside like a cage that was difficult to break free from. The crowd above the immortal viewing platform could imagine Lung Lingyan's panicked expression. Damn it! Dan Zhen cursed angrily. Without saying another word, he led the people of Mount Kunliu to rush over to provide support. Bastard, if you dare to touch a single hair on Senior Sister Lingyan's head, Mount Kunliu will hunt you down. Heh, what a big tone. Shortly after, the two Liao clan experts who had transformed into giants soared into the sky along with the crushed mountain below, directly blocking the path of Danjin's group. If you want to pass, you'll have to get through us first. Although these two Fang clan experts were not as strong as Strength Wu, they had reached the 5th level of the Earth Profound Realm. The aura they emitted was as unshakable as a mountain. Dan Zhen and the rest could not help but be enraged. However, at this moment, a strange and enormous aura suddenly spread in all directions. Everyone present could not help but be shocked. Buzz, there seemed to be the sound of wind and waves. Then, the sky turned dark and the earth lost its color. An indescribable silence enveloped the entire area. Silence. Indescribable silence. All things in the surroundings, including the mountains, rivers, and ruins, seemed to have turned into nothingness, revealing a dreamy, chaotic state. In an instant, everyone present felt as if they had entered the boundless and mysterious galaxy of the universe. Even the true inner force in their bodies seemed to be suppressed by an invisible force. What's going on? Just as everyone was confused, a cold female voice came from the Ice Mirror Demonic Palace. This is not an illusion. It's a pity for you. Lung Lingyan's voice was not the least bit panicked. Instead, it was filled with indifference. What? Everyone was shocked. At the same time, a bad premonition surged in the hearts of Xiaomang, Strength Wu, and the rest. Boom! In the next moment, the soft sound of cyclones that were as soft as feathers caused the space around them to tremble. Soon after, under the astonished gazes of everyone present, a vast and mighty layer of dense white mist spread out like a nebula vortex, with the Ice Mirror Demonic Palace as the center, sweeping out in all directions. Heavenly Void Seal. World Reversal. Her cold and dignified voice caused everyone's hearts to tremble. Following that, a white palm pillar burst out from Lung Lingyan's palms. The palm's momentum was still calm, without the slightest energy fluctuation. However, its speed was like a bolt of lightning. Bang! The white palm pillar directly smashed into the luxurious ice mirror in front of it. Upon contact, the enormous ice mirror was instantly penetrated and shattered into countless fragments. The Ice Mirror Demonic Palace was forcefully pierced through, creating a huge hole. The spectacular scene was like a divine beam piercing through the stars. After piercing through the ice mirror, the white palm shot straight up, and its speed increased by several times. It was like a sharp sword piercing through the air, sweeping up an incomparably cold energy as it fiercely charged at an area about 100 meters away from the ice mirror demonic palace. Bang! Along with a circle of wantonly ripples, the white palm pillar leaped into the sky. However, the area within 100 meters was splattered with blood and flesh flying everywhere. What? Everyone present had their eyes wide open, and their faces were filled with astonishment. Buzz. Buzz, space slightly fluctuated and distorted, and a figure with a face filled with endless fear and disbelief appeared. Ingshaw's face no longer had the playful expression from before. Instead, it was replaced by paleness and panic. His eyes widened as he lowered his head to look at the bloody hole in his chest. The shattered bones and internal organs were all destroyed. It was a ghastly sight, and no one dared to look at it directly. How is this possible? Boom! The ice mirror shattered, and the tens of thousands of crystal pillars exploded into fragments. Lung Lingyan's long hair fluttered in the wind, and her robe was as white as snow. In my void space, your invisibility spell is useless, Li Wuyo said coldly. Void space? The eyes of everyone from Mount Kunliu lit up. I really didn't expect Senior Sister Lingyan to have cultivated the void heavenly seal technique to the last level. This void space is really powerful. That's right, the last level of the void space can form its own independent barrier. Within this range, not only will one's strength increase greatly, but even the slightest movement in the surroundings will be visible to one's eyes. Void space. Reversed realm slash. The sudden reversal caused a huge wave in everyone's heart. After a brief moment of silence, Shadow Killer's life force was rapidly exhausted. His broken internal organs fell from his chest, and he fell powerlessly from the sky like a bird with broken wings. He smashed into the ground, his body smashed to pieces. At this moment, everyone looked at Lung Lingyan differently after killing Ingsha, who had a cultivation base of level 6 Earth Profound stage, with a single move. So it turned out that the truly powerful were all so low-key. Lin Yuman from Sky Bamboo Peak frowned slightly. Her eyes were filled with surprise. So many years had passed, and she thought she would definitely defeat Lung Lingyan from Mount Kunliu. She did not expect Lung Lingyan's cultivation base to be so strong. It was just like what the other party had said, she had never lost to him. Xiao Mang from Heaven Dynasty's face had already turned gloomy. The corner of his mouth drew back, revealing a sinister smile. This is really unexpected. You really hit it well. However, Xiao Mang's voice paused. Then, 2 rays of ruthless light shot out from his eyes. Today, all of you will still have to stay here. Attack! As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Mang held the Saint cutting axe in his hand and rushed towards Lung Lingyan with the power to split the sky. Xan Gu, Bai Nian, and the others from Heaven Dynasty followed closely behind. They all drew their swords and rushed towards the people from Mount Kunliu. The Fang clan's strength shaman sneered. I'm sorry for underestimating you before. The giant's body rushed over. His ice-cold sharp claws covered the sky and ground, crushing towards Lung Lingyan. The 2 experts of level 6 Earth Profound Realm attacked together. The pressure on Lung Lingyan immediately multiplied. Fortunately, she had killed Ingsha first. Otherwise, it would have been incomparably troublesome. However, in terms of overall strength, the Heaven Dynasty and the Fang clan were still stronger than Mount Kunliu. Defeat was the inevitable outcome. At this moment, in an abyss covered by darkness and ruins, a young figure floated in midair. His eyes were closed and a gauze-like golden light pattern flowed around his body. His aura fluctuated between strong and weak, restless and calm at times. It was very mysterious inside Chu Hen's Naiwan Palace. Compared to before, Chu Hen's Naiwan Palace had already undergone a tremendous change. The space continued to expand, and the chaotic area around him became clear at a speed visible to the naked eye. Verdant grass grew on the originally barren land. Rivers flowed, and it was full of vitality. The biggest change was none other than the street tree in the centermost area. At this moment, this street tree no longer had a shadow of the past. It was as if it had been reborn. From the leaves to the trunk, everything was bright and dazzling, as if it was made of crystal. Thousands of mysterious talisman inscriptions covered it like ancient talisman numbers. It was a deluge of colorful flowers. Rich Reiki energy filled the entire Niwen palace. Chu Hen's strength was increasing at an extremely fast rate. When his street tree and the immortal talisman spirit tree merged into one, Chu Hen's attainments in the art of talisman quietly entered the ranks of earth pattern masters. At this moment, Chu Hen truly felt the mystical power of the immortal talisman spirit tree. Just the strength of the Reiki energy that was derived from it was like heaven and earth. Relying on the supreme mystery of the immortal talisman spirit tree, it would not be difficult for him to surpass Earth Pattern Master and enter the realm of Heavenly Pattern Master in the future. Buzz buzz. Layers of light and shadow revolved around Chu Hen's body. There was not a single sound in the silent space. At this moment, the surrounding power rapidly converged into Chu Hen's body. The chaotic aura also calmed down in the next second. Chu Hen's eyes suddenly opened. Chapter 8:16. Boom! The immortal prying platform, which had already been reduced to ruins, once again erupted into a chaotic battle. The Heaven Unified Dynasty and Mount Kunliu immediately drew their swords and fought without saying a word. The Heaven Unified Dynasty's overall strength was already strong, and with the addition of the Liao clan's experts, Mount Kunliu's side quickly fell into a disadvantageous position. Blades flashed and swords flashed, and shockwaves soared into the sky. All kinds of powerful martial arts and secret techniques clashed, causing explosions in the sky and shaking the space in all directions. The sky darkened and rubble flew everywhere. The chaotic rainbow shadows were gorgeous and dazzling, as if the light-shaking realm was wreaking havoc. Lung Lingyan. I'm sorry for underestimating you, Xiao Mang sneered coldly. The holy slicing axe in his hand shone with a cold golden light. He waved his hand, and an axe shadow pierced through the sky, striking towards Lung Lingyan. Lung Lingyan's clear eyes narrowed slightly. Her slender fingers clasped together as she shouted coldly. Void Destruction Palm. Boom! Waves of wind rose and surged, and the area above Lung Lingyan suddenly turned into a vast and endless starry universe. Then, along with the distorted space, a giant palm descended from the sky. It did not cause a single ripple, and it fell silently, although there was not the slightest energy fluctuation. At the moment when the two forces collided, there was an explosion. The giant palm actually forcefully smashed the incoming axe shadow into smithereens. Then, the attack of the palm did not decrease, and it whistled towards Xiao Mang again. A trace of disdain flashed across Xiao Mang's eyes, and he struck out with two axe shadows. The two axe shadows, one in front and one behind, moved like lightning. They flashed in the void, and two crescent shadows flashed, directly smashing the palm's shadow into pieces. The intense collision of energy was like a surging wave, and it exploded in the sky. Roar! At the same time, a ferocious, beast-like roar came from behind Lung Lingyan. The giant-like strength sorcerer threw a punch with the force of Mount Tai, and it was incomparably domineering. The violent energy that covered his arm was like a rising flame, and the scorching heat wave crushed down. Lung Lingyan's pretty face changed slightly, and she hurriedly retreated. As she retreated, her hands formed a lotus seal. Buzz! Along with the slight rhythmic movement of the air, a ripple-like barrier immediately appeared in front of her. Bang! In the next second, Strength Shaman's powerful and heavy fist fiercely smashed onto the screen, causing flames to splatter everywhere and golden light to burst forth. The barrier violently distorted and shook. Following that, the middle of the barrier was pierced, creating a large hole. The powerful shockwave from the aftershock surged toward Lung Lingyan, causing her body to tremble slightly as a trickle of blood trickled down the corner of her mouth. Senior Sister Lingyan, everyone on Mount Kunlu turned pale with fright. To Lung Lingyan, dealing with two experts at the 6th level of the Earth Profound Realm at the same time was indeed somewhat difficult. Even so, no one from Mount Kunlia's side was able to free themselves to assist. Enraged, the eyes of the Mount Kunlia disciples turned red, and each and every one of them erupted with an intense evil aura. "I'll fight you to the death." A disciple with a fiery temper had bloodshot eyes. He turned into a dozen blurry shadows in the air, and as swift as a cheetah, he charged to the left side of one of the Fong clan's giants. He raised his long sword high and thrust it at the enemy's throat in a head-on manner. However, the Fong clan's expert had a disdainful expression on his face. He suddenly turned around and opened his abyss-like mouth, releasing a powerful devouring force. "Die in my stomach!" Rumble, a whirlpool black hole suddenly appeared in his mouth. The Mount Kunlia disciple was caught off guard and was directly sucked into it. Along with a shrill shriek, blood splattered everywhere, filling the gaps between the Fong clan's man's teeth. Cannibalism. Cannibalism for real. This shocking scene caused a chill to run down the spines of everyone in the room. At the same time, everyone felt sorry for the fate of the people from Mount Kunliu ****. Shan Jin's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, and her eyes were about to spit fire. "I'll kill you!" Screech, along with a loud falcon's cry, Shan Jin shot out like an aurora. Golden light patterns revolved around her body and instantly formed a pair of light wings on both sides of her body. The sound of the air being sliced apart was extremely ear-piercing. Shan Jin was like a wing blade that tore through the air, leaving a trail of red flames in the air as she ruthlessly charged at the man-eating Fong clan's man. Boom! Like a meteor crashing into a mountain, the light that soared into the sky bloomed like a misty rain. A bloody wound that was so deep that the bone could be seen quickly split open on the Fong clan's man's chest, extending for dozens of meters. Shan Jin was also sent flying with a fierce look in her eyes. If it was an ordinary person, this attack would have been fatal. However, what made everyone's hearts tremble was the Fong clan's man actually threw his head back and laughed maniacally. "Ha ha ha ha! Idiot, you've underestimated our Fong clan's holy bloodline. I'll let you know what it means to be a descendant of the Saint God." "What?" Dan Jin's pupils constricted. In the next instant she saw the other party's blood and chi rising into the sky, and the fatal wound on his body was actually healing at a rapid pace. The speed at which his vitality was recovering was truly frightening. "Hey, you foolish mortal, you should just obediently stay in the dirt." Another coarse voice filled with ridicule came from behind. Shan Jin was alarmed, and she cursed inwardly. Before she could react, a black shadow shrouded her head. Bang! A sturdy and ice-cold giant hand ruthlessly smashed into Shan Jin's body like a millstone. The protective true essence around her body immediately shattered, and the wings of light on both sides were directly crushed. Shan Jin's body shook, and her internal organs shifted. Along with a large mouthful of blood, she directly fell from the sky, smashing into the rubble below. Boom! A surging shockwave swept across the ground. Inside the crater, Shan Jin's body was covered in blood, and she was in a sorry state, unable to move. "Can't even withstand a single blow." The other Fong clan expert who attacked from behind sneered disdainfully. Boom! Boom! At the same time, one after another, the disciples of Mount Kunliu were besieged by the experts of the Heaven Dynasty. This is your fate for opposing our Heaven-connecting dynasty. A mediocre sect can't stand up to the Grand Hall after all. Let's bury them in the ruins. Seeing that the people of Mount Kunliu had already fallen into a certain death situation, the people from the country of Yu revealed anxious expressions. After all, Mount Kunliu had helped them in the Blood Tree Forest. However, the country of Yu did not have much of a say here in Sky Bamboo Peak. Looks like they won't be able to hold on for long. Yun-He crossed his arms in front of him and rubbed his chin with one hand, a gloating expression on his face. Lin Yuman, who was in front of him, coldly said, "You guys leave first." The people of Sky Bamboo Peak were startled. Junior sister Lin, you want to know about Mount Kunlea? Yunhee asked in a low voice. I don't care about Mount Kunlea's matters, but Lung Lingyan's life and death is my personal matter. Junior sister Lin, you have to think carefully. If anything goes wrong, you know the consequences. It's none of your business. Lin Yuman immediately left the people of Sky Bamboo Peak and flew toward Lung Lingyan's battle. She stared at the slender figure that was on the verge of collapsing under the joint attack of Li Wu and Xiao Mang. She could not help but recall the scene of the two of them fighting for the only spot to enter Sky Bamboo Peak. Lung Lingyan, if I find out that you lost to me on purpose back then, I definitely won't forgive you. Heh, looks like another troublemaker has arrived. Xiao Mang glanced at Lin Yuman from the corner of his eyes. A cruel sneer appeared on his face. I'll leave this to you. Settle it as soon as possible. Li Wu sneered. I'll count to 10 at most. Let's wait and see. Xiao Mang raised his eyebrows. Then, he turned around and charged toward Lin Yuman with a majestic force that was like a monstrous wave. Junior sister Lin, it's not good to be too troublesome. Buzz. Buzz, as he spoke, Xiao Mang raised his holy axe high. Brilliant vines of light shot out from his arms and covered the holy axe. Tens of thousands of light shadows erupted. The sky lost its color and the space trembled. It was as if Xiao Mang was holding a heaven-splitting divine metal in his hands. All the energy in the world was contained in it. Feeling the aura released by Xiao Mang, Lin Yuman's brows were slightly solemn. Then, she spread her arms and flicked her 10 fingers. Along with the rising true origin energy, the airflow in the world rose and fell like a tide. Xiao Mang, don't be too ruthless. Ha 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 ha, I don't need you to teach me what to do. A trace of madness flashed in Xiao Mang's eyes. The veins on his arms bulged, as if he was holding something heavy. Let me see the unique skill of your Sky Bamboo Peak. 9 gods / Buzz. In an instant, a frightening axe shadow that spanned 1,000 meters swept towards Lin Yuman with the power of thunder. It was like a crescent moon, crashing into the heavenly river. Wherever it passed, the space would continuously distort. At the same time, Lin Yuman's aura rose like a wave. 1,000 bamboo shield. Swish, 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 the crushed stones of the mountains below split open. Thousands of huge jade bamboos rose like bamboo shoots after the rain. They lined up in a row and turned into 1,000 zhang tall bamboo wall. The emerald green bamboo wall was like a waterfall that blocked in front of Lin Yuman. Bang! The thunderous axe shadow directly hit the bamboo wall. In an instant, the violent impact was comparable to a landslide and a tsunami. All kinds of violent energy soared into the sky. Rumble! The earth quaked and the mountains shook. Crushed stones danced in the air. Pieces of the bamboo wall exploded in all directions. The people who gathered to watch the battle from afar all felt the heat wave hit their faces and their blood churned. As expected of the people from Sky Bamboo Peak and Heaven Imperial Dynasty. This strength TSK. So what? Even if Lin Yuman makes a move, Kunlea Mountain won't be able to escape the fate of destruction. Lung Lingyan can't hold on any longer. Chapter 8:17. Boom! Endless violent chi shook the heavens and earth, comparable to tsunamis and landslides. The entire ruins of the immortal prying platform became a torrential storm. The first confrontation between Heaven Dynasty's Xiao Mang and Heavenly Bamboo Peak's Lin Yuman had already caused the sky to darken. The two genius disciples from the top 10 forces of the victorious Eastern State displayed their extraordinary demeanor. What should we do? We need to go and help senior sister Lin. A young disciple from Heavenly Bamboo Peak said. However, Yunhee stretched out his hand to stop the people behind him. He glanced at them from the corner of his eyes and coldly laughed. There's no need. Mount Kunlu has already fallen into a situation of certain death. Even if all of us act together, we won't be able to save them. But senior sister Lin? There's no need to worry. Yunhee had a contented expression on his face as he said leisurely, "Once this group of people from Mount Kunliu is eliminated, she will naturally return." Although Yunhee's cultivation was not as strong as Lin Yumin, he entered Heavenly Bamboo Peak a year earlier than her and was more experienced than Lin Yumin. Yunhee still had a lot of authority. Seeing that, the other disciples of Heavenly Bamboo Peak did not say anything else. Bang! Bang! Wave after wave of powerful shockwaves exploded in the air. One by one, Mount Kunliu's disciples suffered casualties under the fierce attacks of the Heaven Dynasty and the Liao clan. Screams were unceasing, filled with hatred and unwillingness. Scram! Su Lang knocked away the enemy in front of him with a sword. His eyes were bloodshot and the veins on his forehead bulged. He shouted, "Senior Sister Lingyan, don't worry about us. Leave this place quickly." "That's right, Senior Sister Lingyan, leave quickly. You must find Junior Brother Chu Hen. A cornered beasts fight certain defeat." The people of Mount Kunliu had already realized this. On the other side, Lung Lingyan was already injured. Her originally pretty face was now slightly pale. "Heh, you can't leave, I swear." Li Wu's cold sneer was like a demon's mockery. His huge body immediately exploded with a scarlet light that soared into the sky. The giant hand that was as sharp as a wolf's claw swept toward Lung Lingyan with the force of a mountain. Lung Lingyan raised her beautiful eyes and could clearly see the palm lines on the other party's palm. Between the palm lines, powerful energy was flowing freely, the devil's hand, palm power splitting the heavens. Boom! The violent shockwave was comparable to a thunderclap, and when the giant palm fell, a brilliant golden light erupted from Lung Lingyan's body. However, in just an instant, her aura was rapidly suppressed. The aurora vanished, and a vast mass of light and shadow swept out in all directions, setting off waves of air and violent tides. Then, a slender and soft figure flew out from within, retreating at an extremely fast speed. Red blood flowed out of Lung Lingyan's mouth, and her pale face turned crimson due to the churning blood essence in her body. At the same time, the man from the Fong clan who had just devoured a Mount Kunliu disciple suddenly let out a sinister laugh. "Die in my stomach. Beauty, What? Everyone present turned pale with fright. The few people from Mount Kunlu were so furious that their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. "Be ****, how dare you? I will definitely tear you into pieces." The man from the Fong clan laughed even more ferociously and proudly. He opened his giant mouth, and between the gaps of his teeth were scarlet pieces, like the bloody mouth of a ferocious beast. Buzz buzz, an extremely restless energy fluctuation appeared at the side of his mouth, and along with the distorted space, a huge suction force erupted. In an instant, Lung Lingyan was like a butterfly that was about to be sucked into a vortex wormhole, and what awaited her was a sharp guillotine. A faint sense of helplessness appeared in her eyes. The injuries in her body had already rendered her defenseless. However, for some reason, there was no fear or panic on her face, even if the Grim Reaper was standing behind her. On the other hand, the people from Mount Kunliu were extremely furious, and they could not wait to execute these few people from the Fong clan. "It's over." A cruel smile appeared on the faces of Xiao Mang, Li Wu, and the others. Lin Yumin looked nervous, but she was too far away to do anything. She could only watch as Lin Yumin fell into the mouth of the man from the Fong clan. The scene of a rain of blood was about to appear. The elegant and refined figure was about to disappear. Rumble! Suddenly, in the ruins behind the immortal prying platform, billions of pieces of rubble were suddenly lifted up, and an extremely violent and piercingly cold murderous aura was comparable to the instantaneous eruption of a volcano. The mountains collapsed, the earth cracked, and the sky lost its color. A huge pit immediately appeared on the ground. Everyone's heart trembled at his words. Swoosh! In the next instant, a ray of saber light directly burst out from the ruins on the ground. The silver saber shadow tore through the air, like a glimpse of thousands of years of history, and attacked in the direction of Lung Lingyan at the speed of light. Hiss! The sound of the cold saber light cutting through the sky hurt everyone's eardrums. What followed was a scene of a rain of blood. Everyone's pupils shrank to the size of a needle. This saber had forcibly cut through the head of the man from the Fong clan, and half of his head had actually been chopped off. There was no scream, but everyone seemed to hear a crazy scream that came from the soul. Red and white liquid danced in the air. The giant of the Fong clan who had lost half of his head was extremely terrifying, but the powerful bloodline of the Fong clan prevented him from dying immediately. The power of swallowing in his bloody mouth rapidly weakened, and a low murmur came from his throat. Rumble. Immediately after, the mountains and rivers shook, and the airwaves were monstrous. A silver shadow cut through the sky, and everyone caught a familiar aura. Lung Lingyan's clear eyes were filled with surprise. She saw the shadow reach her side in an instant, and then, a saber light with the power to split open the sky. Bang! The giant body of the man from the Fong clan, who had half of his head cut off, was once again cut into two from the middle. Blood mixed with internal organs splashed into the sky. In an instant, a master of the Fong clan was killed. Boom! The degree of shock of such a scene exceeded that of Lung Lingyan's annihilating shadow kill. The brutality of such a move was a shock to the eyes of countless people. Xiao Meng, Li Wu, Lin Yuman, Yun He, and the others were also shocked. Everyone's attention was gathered in one place. Under the tumbling wind, a young and slender figure stood proudly in front of Lung Lingyan. His eyes were like torches, and he held a silver saber in his hand. Although his clothes and appearance were slightly disheveled, the aura that emanated from his body directly crushed everyone present. Sorry, I'm late. Leave the rest to me. Chapter 8:18. I'm sorry, I'm late. Leave the rest to me. A cold wind blew between heaven and earth. Looking at the elegant and slender figure in front of them, everyone present could not help but feel a little dazed. A bright red mist of blood sprayed in the wind. The body of the Fong clan giant was split into two and fell heavily to the ground. Rocks and pieces of flesh flew everywhere. It was a bloody and spectacular scene. The eyes of Xiao Meng from the Heaven Unity dynasty, Li Wu from the Fong clan, and the others narrowed. It's the Tianai blade, on the heavenly bamboo peak's side. Chun Ro from the nation of Yu Yun clenched her fists and could not help but exclaim, "Humph, he actually dares to come out." Yun He's face involuntarily revealed a mocking sneer. Currently, Lung Lingyan was heavily injured, and the entire Mount Kuan Lu group was heavily injured. In this kind of situation, Chu Hen was practically sending himself to his death. In this way, he would probably be able to retrieve the Tianai blade today. Boom! At this moment, a thunderous sound exploded in the sky. The other Fong clan giant emitted a monstrous and majestic aura. Its eyes were blood-red and filled with hatred as it glared at Chu Hen. "Bastard, how dare you kill it? I'll crush you into pieces." After saying that, it raised its demonic claws and charged towards Chu Hen. At the same time, Li Wu also made his move. He swept up a vast and mighty aura and launched an attack. Lung Lingyan's pretty face changed. Just as she was about to step forward to help, Chu Hen's calm voice was heard. "Step back a little. You!" Lung Lingyan was startled. She lifted her beautiful eyes and looked at the side profile of Chu Hen's handsome face. There was an indescribable calmness and confidence. She immediately nodded. Before the word heart left her mouth, a layer of ripples immediately appeared in the air. Swoosh! Along with the fleeting arc of light, Chu Hen instantly disappeared from his original spot. He took the lead and charged towards the giant from the Fong clan. Moreover, he ignored the strength shaman who was charging towards him from behind. "Ow! I won't be careless this time." The Fong clan giant let out a bestial roar. Because he had been defeated by Chu Hen on the immortal-seeking platform, he did not hold back this time. He released the power of his Fang clan bloodline to the extreme, and all the power in his body burst forth. Die! Buzz, the Fang clan giant stretched out its right arm and grabbed towards Chu-Hen. Mighty Zhen Yuan covered its entire arm, as if it was burning with a layer of domineering demonic fire. Wherever it went, everything was crushed into nothingness. However, Chu-Hen was expressionless. His eyes were cold and cruel. Condensing his palm, rumble, the Tianai blade immediately blossomed with a dazzling silver light. A beam of light slid across the blade's body, and the void above was immediately shrouded by nebulae. A storm came, and accompanied by a world-shaking roar of a tiger, a domineering white saber-toothed tiger suddenly appeared behind Chu-Hen. His ice-cold pupils looked down on all living things, and a ferocious might from ancient times suppressed everything in all directions. Roar! The tiger roared Zhong Mountain, stirring up raging waves. In an instant, Chu-Hen held the Tianai saber in both hands and attacked the center of the Fang clan giant's right palm with a head-on thrust. Bang! As soon as the two collided, it was like the intersection of mountains, and a bloody rain of light surged into the sky. What followed was the shrill scream of the Fang clan giant. Get out of here! Bang, bang, bang! Broken bones flew, and flesh and blood burst. The pupils of everyone present shrank. Starting from the palm, then the forearm, then the elbow, the arm of the Fang clan giant exploded inch by inch, like a decayed stone pillar that had been struck by the power of thunder. It was instantly smashed into pieces. At this moment, Chu-Hen seemed to have transformed into an ancient ferocious beast, and the Tianai saber launched an unstoppable attack. In just the blink of an eye, the Fang clan giant's entire arm was reduced to pieces. And the next second, Chu-Hen, surrounded by the dazzling saber radiance, had already turned into a beam of light that penetrated the Fang clan giant's chest and back. Boom! Blood rained down again, and the Fang clan giant's enormous body immediately exploded into pieces in the void. The bloody scene caused countless people to tremble with fear. Vile spawn! In less than 10 seconds, he had killed 2 Fang clan experts who were at the 5th level of the Earth Profound Realm. This directly made the Strength Shaman furious. If I don't kill you today, I'm not worthy of being the descendant of the Saint God. The Saint God? What a joke! Chu-Hen held a blade in one hand and raised his other hand lightly. A series of beautiful runes that resembled spirit butterflies lingered on his fingertips. His brows were filled with disdain and contempt. You barbarian groups dare to call yourselves the descendants of the Saint God. Eating human blood, devouring human flesh, such a lowly and immoral clan, only the abyss hell is suitable for you. Shut up. The name of the Saint God is not something a fool like you can blaspheme. My Fang clan god bloodline is immortal. Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, the Strength Shaman's body expanded again, and a strange bloody mist gushed out of his body. His face became distorted, and he turned into a green face with fangs, looking like a devil from hell. The terrifying aura was like a mountain, and it made people unable to move. Seeing this, the people from Mount Kunliu could not help but reveal a grave expression. Just the Strength Shaman alone was already so powerful, let alone Xiao Mang, who was waiting for an opportunity. Today's situation boded ill rather than well. Today, I will use your blood as a sacrifice to the Fang clan god. Rumble, the Strength Shaman, whose body had doubled in size, was like a giant that covered the sky. He opened his mouth that was filled with fangs, and a powerful suction force exploded. In an instant, all kinds of energy in the world rapidly gathered in his mouth, and turned into a ball of turbid jade ball. Wah! An ear-piercing shriek sounded, and the Strength Shaman looked down at Chu-Hen from above. Then, the turbid jade ball in his mouth was like a meteorite that fell from the 9 heavens, causing the world to tremble as it flew towards Chu-Hen. A black shadow covered the sky, shrouding the earth. An incomparably restless and violent energy was filled with the power to destroy the world. Lung Lingyan, Lin Yuman, and the rest were all shocked. The Heaven Dynasty's Xiao Meng smiled coldly. Heh, looks like I don't have to do anything anymore. A powerful wave of air whistled through the earth, and a terrifying pressure came crashing down. However, at this moment, Chu Hen flicked his left finger, and countless dazzling runes instantly spread out in all directions. A strange rune array that spanned 100 meters suddenly appeared below Chu Hen without any warning. The mysterious runes intertwined with each other, and they were colorful and brilliant. What? He's also an earth tattoo master? How is this possible? Not only were the people from the other forces shocked, but even the people from Mount Kunliu were shocked. When did Chu Hen become an earth tattoo master? No one knew. Without any time to think, under the surprised gazes of the crowd, the huge rune array that looked like a divine disk released thousands of rays of light. Earth God's hand. Boom. Just as the turbid jade ball that seemed to be able to destroy everything was about to land, an incomparably tough giant stone hand suddenly flew out of the rune array. The giant hand was made up of countless pieces of rock. Bang! In an instant, the two terrifying forces collided. The jade ball that was filled with all kinds of majestic energy bombarded the giant stone hand. The violent True Yuan and the mighty Reiki energy were like two tsunamis converging, shaking the heavens and the earth, setting off a raging wave that soared into the sky. Rumble! The space within a radius of 10,000 meters seemed to tremble, and the rubble that filled the sky was like a swarm of locusts, covering the sky and covering the earth, along with the powerful waves of air that surged in all directions. Kiki, Li Wu laughed maniacally. I want to see how many times you can block me. I have the protection of the Dragon God bloodline. You can't hurt me, ha ha. Humph, then I want to see how you die. A cold voice came directly from the front. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the next instant, 7 glittering metal chains shot out from the rain of rubble. The 7 metal chains danced like dragons and snakes, extending endlessly, shuttling through the rain of rubble. They immediately arrived in front of Li Wu and wrapped around his body. At that moment, Li Wu's body had already reached over 2,000 feet. Although his speed did not decrease, he was too big of a target. A few of the metal chains immediately wrapped around Li Wu's ankles, arms, and waist. Humph, you want to trap me with just this? Too naive. Blood mist surged around Li Wu's body, and his muscles bulged. The few metal chains that wrapped around him immediately tightened, as though they would break at any time. Such a shocking scene was like a star chain trapping a ferocious demon. However, the power of this ferocious demon was truly terrifying. Zap, zap. At that moment, a series of black lightning darted up the 7 metal chains, and the dense power of dark lightning was instantly channeled into Li Wu's body through the metal chains. Li Wu's body trembled, and endless black lightning enveloped him like an electric net. Ah! The powerful impact of the electric current caused Li Wu's eyes to widen in anger, and they were bloodshot. This is? Everyone present frowned, and their faces were filled with shock. Heaven Dynasty's Xiao Meng was secretly shocked. Then, his body moved, and he left Lin Yuman behind. He waved his holy slicing axe and rushed towards the battlefield. Not good. Definitely not good. Xiao Meng could no longer sit still. This nameless pawn called Chu Hen was not a good person at all. However, before Xiao Meng could stop him, a beam of light shot across the sky. Chu Hen, who was engulfed in the power of dark lightning, had already arrived in front of Li Wu. I'm sorry to tell you. Today, even your so-called godly can't save you. The cold voice was like the judgment of the Grim Reaper. Li Wu's expression changed drastically, and a sense of danger enveloped his heart. In a hurry, he struggled with all his might, and rushed upwards with all his might. Zap, zap, like the loud cries of millions of lightning birds, violent black lightning covered the Tianai blade. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and he held the hilt of the blade with both hands. Without any hesitation, he plunged the cold blade into Li Wu's abdomen. Millions of lightning bolts wandered recklessly. Immediately, Chu Hen held the Tianai blade with both hands, and with the blade facing upwards, He used the power of the heaven-punishing blade and pushed upwards rapidly, sticking close to his opponent's body. Hiss! The sound of flesh being cut was like a beautiful symphony, and the sound of blood dancing in the wind was especially cheerful. Chapter 8:19. Hiss! The sound of flesh being cut interweaved into a beautiful melody. The sound of fresh blood dancing in the wind was especially cheerful. The ice-cold blade covered with black lightning directly pierced into the abdomen of the strength shaman's huge body and quickly pushed upwards, continuously breaking open the strength shaman's body. The merciless blade was unstoppable, its aura piercing the heavens. Scarlet blood wantonly danced in the air, forming the shape of a blooming flower. The strength shaman's body violently trembled. His eyes were bloodshot, and his mournful screams reverberated throughout the heavens and earth. The strength shaman struggled with all his might. Bang, bang, bang! The few starlight chains that were wrapped around the strength shaman's body instantly shattered. However, it was useless. The Tianai blade in Chu Hen's hand pierced into his internal organs and cut off his bone marrow under countless gazes that were filled with endless shock and fear. A huge wound that spanned 100 meters appeared on the strength shaman's huge body. The ghastly wound was dripping with fresh blood, like a ravine. The internal organs were clearly visible. Such a horrifying and ferocious scene sent chills down everyone's spine. If the strength shaman's external appearance was like a demon, then the current Chu Hen was like a cold and merciless death god. His ruthlessness caused everyone's heart to tremble. No matter how powerful the Liao clan's bloodline was, it was impossible for him to ignore such a heavy injury. Anger, malevolence, and fear. All sorts of emotions surged on the strength shaman's distorted face. Xiao Mang! Help me kill him! He was powerless to continue fighting and could only rely on the help of the Heaven's Descendants dynasty's Xiao Mang. Although Xiao Mang was already rushing over, it was already too far for him to help. I've already said that even if your Liao god comes, he won't be able to save you today. The indifferent voice was the death god's verdict. Chu Hen's figure moved, and he flew above the strength shaman. He raised the Tianai blade with both hands, and countless silver light patterns spread out like blooming white flames. Killing intent. There was no hesitation in killing intent. Be buried in these ruins! Buzz, as his voice fell, 1,000-foot-long saber light slashed down from the sky, and the power on both sides of the world stacked up like stormy waves. The strength shaman's pupils contracted to the size of a needle tip, his distorted face filled with endless fear. No! Bang! The surging halo was mixed with the stench of blood and wind as it spread out. Everyone's hearts trembled as the strength shaman's body, which was almost 200 meters tall, was directly split into two by Chu Hen's saber rumble. It was like a collapsing mountain crashing down, sending up a rain of blood and flesh. Shock, tremble. In an instant, he had killed 3 experts of the Liao clan. Such a magnificent feat truly shocked the entire immortal prying platform. The people of the Heaven Imperial Dynasty frowned, the people of the Heavenly Bamboo Peak shook their heads, and even the disciples of Mount Kuan Lu were dumbfounded. Lung Lingyan clenched her fists lightly as she gazed at the young figure with an extraordinary bearing, and her eyes were suffused with traces of pleasant surprise. Then, Lung Lingyan's pretty face changed and she shouted, Chu Hen, watch your back! What? Everyone was shocked. They only saw a swift and fierce axe shadow, like a ray of light chasing after the moon, slashing towards Chu Hen. Behind the axe shadow, there was a blurry afterimage. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold as he turned around and slashed with his saber. The lightning-like Tianai saber's power was peerless, and it instantly shattered the axe shadow. Bang! The beautiful light and shadow were like shattered ice crystals, filling the sky and splattering everywhere. In the next instant, a cold and fierce face appeared in front of Chu Hen's eyes. Humph, I've really underestimated you. Die for me. Xiao Mang's entire body was surging with hostility, and he was as fierce as a wild beast. He held the holy cleaving axe high above his head, and it shone brightly, as if he was holding a heavenly medal. Facing the menacing Xiao Mang, Chu Hen's eyes were calm, and he did not retreat. Instead, he advanced and waved the Tianai saber, directly facing the attack. Bang! The holy cleaving axe, which was covered in dazzling golden light, clashed with the Tianai saber, which was swallowing and spitting restless black lightning. In an instant, violent vital energy surged into the sky, and chaotic light and shadow blossomed between the two, causing the space to distort. Chi-chi. Buzz buzz. Sparks flew as the cold blade and the sharp edge of the axe rubbed against each other. The two were like two bulls fighting, not giving way to each other, and they resisted each other with their hidden strength. Xiao Mang stared fiercely at Chu Hen's calm face, and a deep voice came from his throat. I will definitely kill you today. However, after hearing this, a frivolous smile appeared on the corner of Chu Hen's mouth. He looked straight into the other's eyes and said calmly, Since you are so confident, why are you afraid? Afraid? Xiao Mang frowned. What a joke, why would I be afraid of you? Fear has already made you lose your calm mind. Chu Hen was still calm and composed, and his torch-like eyes revealed the sharpness of a sword. Roar! Immediately after, a deafening tiger's roar reverberated from within Chu Hen's body. Buzz buzz! Accompanied by a strong and unparalleled ferocity, a shocking white saber-toothed tiger immediately appeared behind Chu Hen's back. A strong wind suddenly rose, and the sky darkened. A pressure that was comparable to a tsunami from the abyss rushed towards Xiao Mang, and the latter's expression suddenly changed. His trembling eyes suddenly reflected a pair of deep and demonic purple eyes. Everything in the world seemed to turn into nothingness in an instant. The sky and earth spun, and all sounds became silent. Xiao Mang seemed to see his own death in Chu Hen's eyes. It was the same miserable ending as the strength shaman, and not even his bones were left. Fear. It was a genuine fear. No, Xiao Mang's gaze turned fierce, and a strong hatred and murderous intent once again exploded from his body. You are too naive. If you think that I am only at this level, then you are gravely mistaken. As soon as he finished speaking, the white saber-toothed tiger behind Chu Hen let out a roar, and a majestic force of hidden strength crushed down. Bang! A layer of transparent light rippled in the space, and Xiao Mang was caught off guard. His body shook, and he immediately left his original position and retreated downwards. In this first confrontation, Xiao Mang was at a disadvantage. Xian Gu, Bai Nian, and the other people from the Heaven Unified Dynasty all felt that something was wrong. In the next moment, an extremely angry energy wave suddenly surged out. That is? Everyone's gazes converged at the same place without prior agreement. They saw Chu Hen raise one of his hands towards the sky. His 5 fingers opened up, and tens of thousands of starlight beams surged out of his body. They rapidly rotated and gathered in the center of his palm. Buzz buzz! The endless power of the stars quickly gathered in Chu Hen's palm, and it compressed into a sphere. The sky trembled, and the world spun. It seemed as if a tornado had formed between the heaven and the earth. More and more power of the 7 stars compressed together, and in the blink of an eye, a huge spiral sphere appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Beams of light followed the rotation of the sphere, and Chu Hen looked as if he was holding a star in his hand, and his aura shook the heavens. What a shocking power density! Just who is he? He can actually compress his true essence to this degree. Everyone's expressions changed as they sensed the strength of the power transmitted from the sphere. The people from the Heaven Unified Dynasty were even more shocked. Help senior brother Xiao Mang. Quick! Bastard, stop right now. Without saying anything else, the people from the Heaven Unified Dynasty quickly flew to help Xiao Mang. The latter's face had already turned green, and at the same time he fiercely roared, You want to defeat me? In your dreams, Buzz! Xiao Mang's eyes spewed out flames, and an unending stream of power poured into the Holy Cutter Axe. In the next moment, the Holy Cutter Axe rapidly enlarged, and in an instant, It became dozens of meters wide. Also at the same time, Chu Hen's eyes flickered with the light of the stars. With the power of the heavens in his palm, he shook the power of the stars and threw the huge sphere out. Merak kill, chaotic star river. Rumble. It was earth-shattering, and earth-shattering. The enormous sphere of energy that had been compressed by the surging seven-star force fell down like a meteorite from the heavens, heading straight for Xiao Mang below. The endless pressure was like a huge wave, and the holy cutter axe in front of Xiao Mang was immediately engulfed by the monstrous starlight. Xiao Mang's expression changed drastically, and the expression that had appeared on Li Wu's face previously appeared once again. Boom! In an instant, under the shocked gazes of everyone, the Merak sphere, along with Xiao Mang's body, heavily smashed into the ground below like a meteorite. Rumble, lightning intertwined, heavenly star explosion. Hundreds of millions of rocks instantly soared into the sky, and a terrifying energy exploded in an instant. The ground cracked, and the rocks were all crushed into powder. The aftermath of the frenzied airwaves swept in all directions, like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves, causing the mountains to collapse and the earth to crack. Senior Brother Xiao Mang. Chapter 820. Rumble. The immortal viewing platform's ground cracked open like a volcano eruption. Boundless chaotic starlight waves swept out in all directions. Everywhere they went, the rocks broke inch by inch and surged into the sky like a swarm of locusts. Bang, 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 the Heaven Imperial Court's people who came to help Xiao Mang were caught off guard. No one expected Chu Hen's move to have such a terrifying destructive power. They couldn't dodge in time and were sent flying while vomiting blood. The world shook and the sky lost its color. Merak annihilation, shattering star river. This was the 6th level of the 7-star scripture, the strongest killing move of the Merak chapter. It compressed the power of the 7 stars to the maximum and instantly detonated it to form an extremely powerful destructive power. This power was even more terrifying than the combined power of the previous 5 killing moves. Rumble, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. Countless rocks turned into dust. Lung Lingyan, Su Lang, Lin Yuman, Yun He, and the others were all shocked. A violent shockwave spread out in all directions. Shortly after, a huge circular crater that was 100 meters deep appeared in everyone's eyes. The turbulent airwaves surged wantonly. Inside the sinkhole, a battered figure covered in blood, his clothes in rags, and his aura was so weak that it was almost gone. He lay there like a dead dog. Hiss! Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. Shock. Absolute shock. The other people from the Heaven Imperial Court were already pale with fright when they saw this scene. Retreat! Xingu hurriedly shouted. Is it Senior Brother Xiao Mang? Bai Nian hesitantly exclaimed. We can't save him, let's go. Immediately, Xingu covered his chest with one hand and suppressed the raging blood in his body while turning around to leave. After a short moment of hesitation, Bai Nian and the others also left Xiao Mang and quickly left. Looking at the group from the Heaven Imperial Court fleeing, the people from the other forces more or less revealed looks of disdain. A bunch of cowards. Su Lang coldly snorted, but due to his own injuries, the people from Mount Kunliu did not pursue. Otherwise, with the Heaven Imperial Court's actions today, not a single one of them would leave alive. As the chaotic airflow calmed down, the crowd of people from the various forces also slowly regained their composure. But everyone's gaze towards Chu Hen became especially cautious. He was clearly only at the 4th level of the Earth Profound Realm, but he was so strong that he could casually kill someone at the 6th level of the Earth Profound Realm. I'm sorry to inform you that you've lost. Chu Hen looked down at the dying Xiao Mang. If it was not for the saint's slicing axe blocking in front of him, Xiao Mang would have died from that attack. Hee. At this moment, Xiao Mang actually raised his blood-stained face and revealed a mouthful of cold, white teeth. Kill me. Don't think you'll have it easy either. Don't forget, the trip to the ancient desolate heaven domain isn't over yet. Someone will avenge me, ha 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 ha. Xiao Meng roared out the last sentence. He used the last bit of his strength to crawl up, and a violent and chaotic power flowed through his body. His hideous and twisted face was filled with ferocity. Not a bad last word. Chu Hen's gaze was as calm as water. Along with his indifferent voice, a ray of sword light swept out from the tip of his finger and instantly turned into a sharp sword pillar that fell down, bang. A muffled sound rang out. Blood splattered everywhere, and Xiao Meng's body exploded into pieces. Everyone's pupils involuntarily trembled, and an indescribable chill crept into their hearts. They originally thought that Chu Hen would have some misgivings and let Xiao Meng go. After all, the strength of the Heaven Unified Dynasty was there for all to see. However, they did not expect that the other party would still be so ruthless and decisive. Bang! Dust rose everywhere, and mud and stones fell like rain. Whoosh! At the location where Xiao Meng died, a ray of light shot out and steadily landed in Chu Hen's hand. It was Xiao Meng's weapon, the Saint's slicing axe. Feeling the violent power within the Saint's slicing axe, ripples appeared in Chu Hen's eyes. This was a pretty good treasure. Are you all right? Chu Hen flashed in front of Lung Lingyan. The latter shook her head, and the corner of her mouth curled up slightly. Her clear eyes were surging with a faint expression. Then, the two of them landed on the cliff of a mountain, and the disciples of Mount Kunliu gathered. Senior sister Lingyan, junior brother Chu Hen. Senior brother Danjin's injuries are very serious. Su Lang and Ling Tao held onto Danjin's shoulders and said anxiously. Chu Hen frowned slightly. Because of him, the team had suffered a lot of losses in this battle. Almost half of the team had died and everyone was injured. Chu Hen could not help but feel a little apologetic. This is the healing medicine that Hua Shui left for me. Qi Ting, who was also covered in injuries, quickly took out a small jade bottle. I have it too, Lu Qi also said. It was not easy for Qi Ting and Lu Qi, who came from the 100 Kingdoms continent and entered the ancient desolate heaven domain because of Chu Hen, to be able to survive this kind of battle. However, after so many changes and battles, the two of them were also constantly growing and transforming. Let's use this. The effect of the 100-flower dew is milder. At this moment, a gentle female voice came from behind. Everyone was stunned at first. It was none other than the people from Heavenly Bamboo Peak and Yueyun led by Lin Yuman. To be honest, the disciples of Mount Kunliu did not have a good impression of the people from Heavenly Bamboo Peak, but they liked Lin Yuman. After all, Lin Yuman was willing to help them when they were surrounded by enemies. Lung Lingyan nodded slightly and gestured to Su Lang. Su Lang then took the bottle from Lin Yuman's hand and took out a pill for Danjin to consume. Thank you, Lung Lingyan said softly. You don't have to be so polite with me. Lin Yuman smiled and looked at Chu Hen. She then said to Lung Lingyan, when should we have a good chat? Sure, but I'm afraid we'll have to wait until we leave the ancient desolate heaven domain. Okay, then you have to protect yourself, you too. After a simple chat, Lin Yuman was ready to leave with the group. However, just as she turned around, a deep voice stopped her. Junior sister Lin, we still have other things to do. Oh. Lin Yuman turned around and looked at Yun He. She was stunned at first, but she quickly understood what he was referring to. Not only her, but the people of Mount Kunliu also reacted instantly. The Tianai saber, the treasure of Yueyun, everyone cursed in their hearts. This Yun He was really not a good person. Wasn't he trying to embarrass Lin Yuman by mentioning this now? If Chu Hen did not give it to them, who could do anything to him? Buzz, as soon as he finished speaking, Chu Hen's deep gaze landed on Yun He. The latter's expression changed abruptly and he trembled violently. He instantly regretted being a busybody. Chu Hen even dared to kill Xiao Meng. Why would he be afraid of Yun He? Lin Yuman could also see that Chu Hen was a little unhappy. She immediately smiled and said, The Tianai saber is no longer the Tianai saber of the past. When we return, I will report the situation to the higher-ups. When that time comes, I will pay a visit to Mount Kunli. 1,000 years ago, the Tianai saber was the saber of the famous general of Yueyun, Bailey Qi. But now, the Karma saber had already fused with the dripping God spear, and coupled with the tempering from the geocentric crystal and immortal spirit nurture inkstone that were used to refine divine artifacts, its might couldn't be compared to before. With Lin Yuman's knowledge, it was not difficult to see that the Tianai saber had been upgraded. Wait! Chu Hen called out to Lin Yuman, who was about to leave. Do you have any other advice? Just as you said, the Tianai saber is no longer the Tianai saber of the past. Chu Hen stared at the other party's clear and beautiful eyes and said resolutely, So, even if you come again, I will not hand it over, merciless. The atmosphere became awkward. And then? Lin Yuman raised her eyebrows slightly. She was not angry. On the contrary, Yun He's expression darkened. He clenched his fists and said, You don't go too far. However, Chu Hen did not look at Yun He and continued, And then, I want to use this to exchange, Hua. With a flash of white light, everyone's eyes lit up. A blood-red coral appeared in Chu Hen's hand. Blood coral heart? One of the more knowledgeable Sky Bamboo Peak disciples blurted out subconsciously. What's a blood coral heart? It's a large-scale defensive treasure. Didn't we pass through a blood-red forest when we entered this immortal viewing platform? As long as the blood coral heart is planted in the ground, that kind of defensive forest will grow. So magical? Lin Yuman's eyes lit up with a trace of interest as she said softly, To the sect, the blood coral heart is indeed a good thing. However, I'm not too sure if our sect master will agree to the exchange. You can give it a try. If it doesn't work, then come and find me to increase the price. Chu Hen's tone became much more relaxed. After all, facing such a gentlewoman like Lin Yuman, he really could not bring himself to hate her. All right then. With that, Lin Yuman reached out and took the blood coral heart from Chu Hen's hand. Then, she asked with interest, I wonder, what other good things did you get other than the blood coral heart? Chu Hen smiled and raised his hand slightly, making a please gesture. Lin Yuman did not intend to stay any longer. After a simple farewell to Lung Lingyan, she immediately left with the people of Sky Bamboo Peak. Junior brother Chu Hen, it's not worth it to exchange the blood coral heart for the Tianai saber. As soon as the people of Sky Bamboo Peak left, the people of Mount Kunliu let out a sigh of pity. That's right. If you brought the blood coral heart back to our sect, the demon-slaying temple master would definitely help you keep the Tianai saber. What a pity. If we had the blood coral heart, the defense of our Mount Kunliu would definitely be impregnable. Especially those poisonous insects raised by the blood-refining hall, none of them would be able to fly in. However, Chu Hen only smiled and did not say anything. From his point of view, whether it was a loss or not, whether it was worth it or not, was not the same thing. As long as the Tianai saber was suitable for him, it was worth it. Of course, there was another reason for doing so. He did not want to put Lung Lingyan in a difficult position. Giving the blood coral heart to Lin Yuman was also a way for her to return and to thank her for helping Lung Lingyan. Lung Lingyan did not say anything, but she saw it and quietly said, Thank you to Chu Hen. The battle on the immortal prying platform was over. The people who gathered there left one after another. Meanwhile, on a cliff several miles away from the battlefield, two middle-aged men with calm auras were respectfully standing behind a young woman. It seemed that they had been standing there since the beginning. Even though their auras were calm, they were hidden so deeply. They sat on the mountain and watched the tigers fight, spying on everything. I didn't expect that Mount Kunliu would have such an extraordinary talent, a middle-aged man said in a deep voice. The other person asked, Miss Lan, was the immortal seal spiritual tree taken by him? The young woman shook her head, confusion surging in her eyes. I don't know. His attainments in the art of runes are only at the level of an earth tattoo master. With his ability, It's absolutely impossible for him to pass through the four deaths of earth and heaven formation and take away the immortal seal spiritual tree in such a short time. But, the young woman paused and muttered softly, this person gives me a feeling that I can't see through him. Since it's not him, shall we look elsewhere? Chapter 8:21. Senior Sister Lingyan, Junior Brother Chu Hen, come quickly. Senior Brother Shan Zhen has woken up. In the tranquil mountain forest, a voice filled with excitement reverberated, causing a few small animals that were foraging for food nearby to turn around and run in fright. Following that, a series of rustling footsteps could be heard as several figures gathered under a towering tree. Shan Zhen, who was pale, looked at the surroundings and the crowd in confusion. I'm not dead yet. What nonsense are you talking about? Senior Brother Shan Zhen. Su Lang squatted beside him and patted his shoulder. We're safe now. Really? Where are those people? The enemies have all been taken care of by Junior Brother Chu Hen, who was standing behind him, said apologetically. I'm sorry, if I had appeared earlier, you wouldn't have suffered such heavy injuries and lost so many brothers. Speaking of this, the people of Mount Kunlia couldn't help but sigh. There were 20 people in the team when they came, but now, half of them had died, leaving only a dozen or so. Coupled with the fact that the entire team was injured, they stopped moving after leaving the immortal prying platform and rested here. Danjun's eyes were slightly moved. It seemed like the people from the Liao clan and the Heaven Unified Dynasty had all fallen at Chu Hen's hands. She felt relieved in her heart, but at the same time, she was secretly shocked by Chu Hen's strength. You can continue resting. We still have to continue searching for the flying immortal Hall Lord tomorrow morning. Lung Lingyan said. It had been a while since the ancient desolate heaven domain opened, but the flying immortal Hall Lord, Qi Hanyu, and the blood refinement halls Liao Qixio were still nowhere to be found. If they continued to delay like this, no one knew what would happen later on. For them, time was not on their side. Shan Zhen naturally understood the current situation and nodded. I understand. Soon after, the group dispersed to different places. Sentries, patrols, and pathfinders were all assigned. Night quickly fell, and a bonfire shone brightly in the dark forest. After a series of intense battles, everyone was extremely tired. All of them closed their eyes to rest or leaned against the trees to rest. Chu Hen sat alone on a rock not far away. His deep eyes gazed at the stars in the sky, as if he had thousands of thoughts running through his mind. What are you thinking about? A voice that was as gentle as a feather came from behind him. Her fair and slender hand gently patted his shoulder, and Lung Lingyan casually sat down beside Chu Hen. Chu Hen came back to his senses and faintly smiled. Nothing much. You won't tell me? Let me guess. Your eyes are filled with gentleness, and you have an inexplicable silly smile on your face. You must be thinking of a girl. Chu Hen was taken aback and looked at him in surprise. Looks like I was right. Lung Lingyan's beautiful brows raised slightly as a complacent smile appeared on the corners of her mouth. You haven't seen each other for a long time, right? Yeah. Chu Hen heaved a sigh of relief, and the image of a beautiful woman with a heart as clear as ice appeared in his mind. Meng Chang, are you all right? Chu Hen thought to himself. However, seeing that Chu Hen was lost in his thoughts again, Lung Lingyan pursed her lips in dissatisfaction. She wrapped her arms around her knees and said indifferently, I think she should be a very special woman. To me, special is enough. Chu Hen replied. All right. Thank you for the day. Thank me for what? Lin Yuman. Thank you for not making things difficult for her. Chu Hen smiled. It's nothing. I was the one who snatched the Tianai saber in the first place, so it's only right for me to compensate her with something. Oh right, there's something I want to ask you. Chu Hen suddenly thought of something, and a hint of caution appeared on his face. Speak. Where did those 3 people come from? In Chu Hen's heart, the 2 middle-aged men with steady auras and astonishing strength, as well as the young woman who was a tattoo master, those 3 people? Who? Lung Lingyan looked puzzled. It's the three people in the illusion. One of them made a move and easily destroyed a giant stone statue with the power of lightning. However, Lung Lingyan still looked puzzled. What are you talking about? Why don't I remember such a thing? Don't remember? Chu Hen was stunned. Didn't he? Could it be that it was just an illusion? But if it was an illusion, why did he remember it? Just as Chu Hen was puzzled, Lung Lingyan couldn't help but laugh. Haha, I'm just teasing you. You fell for it. Ha 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 ha. You. This time, it was Chu Hen's turn to be confused. The corner of his mouth twitched and he shook his head helplessly. To be honest, I always thought that you were a lady, but I didn't expect you to be so mischievous. Lung Lingyan shook her head proudly. Even a lady can joke. I'm already convinced by your acting skills. You're an actress who's been ruined by martial arts. I'll accept your compliment. Back and forth, Chu Hen realized that he couldn't win against her in an argument. This was a little awkward, and Chu Hen immediately turned back. You still haven't answered my question. Them. They have a great background. Lung Lingyan also stopped joking around, and a trace of seriousness flashed across her eyes. If I'm not wrong, those three people should be from the Thunder Saint Palace. Thunder Saint Palace? These three words were like lightning, causing Chu Hen's heart to tremble slightly. It had to be said that it was a rather intimidating name. One of the top 10 forces in the Eastern Victory State? One of. Lung Lingyan shook her head. You underestimate the Thunder Saint Palace. Even if you say that the Thunder Saint Palace is the top of the top 10 forces, not many people would refute you. Top of? Chu Hen couldn't help but narrow his eyes, and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. One of and top of were two completely different concepts. Unknowingly, he had already come into contact with such a colossal force? Tell me about it in simple terms. Chu Hen said. To be honest, before you came to the ancient desolate heaven domain, you should have learned about this. Lung Lingyan looked at him with amusement, then softly explained to him. The Eastern Victory State is vast, and rich in resources. There are over 100,000 sects and forces of various sizes. Among the top 10 forces, there are the Myriad World Sect, the Palace of Jihua, and the Thunder Saint Palace. Since the beginning of the Eastern Victory State's prosperity, they have always been in the top 3 of the top 10 forces and have never fallen. Chu Hen nodded, indicating that he was listening. Lung Lingyan continued, the Myriad World Sect has always been the top of the top 10 forces. However, in recent years, the Thunder Saint Palace's strength has continued to grow, and they are now on par with the Myriad World Sect, or even surpassing them. Right now, the outside world is often arguing over who is the overlord of the province, between the Thunder Saint Palace and the Myriad World Sect. How powerful are the three sects? Chu Hen asked curiously. That's hard to say. Everyone has a different concept of power. I can only say that the leaders of the Myriad World Sect, the Thunder Saint Palace, and the Palace of Jihua have all reached the stage of eternal life and immortality. In the entire Eastern Victory State, no one can shake them, eternal life, inextinguishable for 1,000 generations. The more Chu Hen listened, the more shocked he became. Just thinking about it made him feel the supreme power. In recent decades, the Thunder Saint Palace has become more powerful, and there are many outstanding geniuses among the younger generation. Lei Jixin and Lei Mingho, in particular, are rare. Both of them are born with the Thunder Soul Saint physique, and they can be said to be the best in the Eastern Victory State. Saint physique. When he heard these two words, Chu Hen's heart immediately set off a storm. This was the first time he heard of someone possessing a saint physique since he entered the Eastern Victory State. His heart was filled with excitement as if lightning had struck him. The Eastern Victory State was huge, and there were indeed many geniuses. Chapter 822. Myriad World Sect, Thunder Saint Palace, Jihua Palace, Eternal Life, inextinguishable for 1,000 generations. once in 1,000 years, outstanding, thunder soul sacred physique. As the words came out of Lung Lingyan's mouth, they were transmitted to Chu Hen's ears, causing him to have a better understanding of the victorious eastern province. Seeing Chu Hen's shocked expression, Lung Lingyan patted his shoulder and said, "To be honest, in my eyes, one day, you will be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with Lei Mingho, Lei Jixin, and the others. You are not inferior to them at all." Chu Hen smiled a little embarrassedly. "Senior sister, you think too highly of me. I come from a lowly background, how can I be compared to the outstanding talents of the great families?" Then, Chu Hen suddenly asked, "Senior sister, what is Honesty Valley's ranking among the top 10 forces?" Lung Lingyan was slightly startled. She was a little surprised that Chu Hen would ask this question. After all, she did not know about what happened to Yi Yao. After a moment of hesitation, Lung Lingyan's red lips parted slightly and she said, "According to overall strength, Honesty Valley is ranked 5th? Chu Hen clenched his fists slightly. In other words, Honesty Valley's strength was only 2 levels away from the top 3. Without a doubt, it was a colossal existence in the victorious East State. Honesty Valley's Valley Master, Shintu Changkong, possesses one of the strongest profound bodies, the illusory sky profound body. When his strength explodes to the extreme, it is comparable to a saint body. He is an extremely powerful existence. There is also Honesty Valley's young Valley Master, Shintu Etian. He is also a monstrous genius whose name is known throughout the entire province. It is said that Shintu Etian is extremely shrewd, good at setting up traps, and has extremely strong control. Bang! Before Lung Lingyan could finish speaking, Chu Hen pressed his hand on the rock beneath him, and a clear palm print immediately formed under his palm. Lung Lingyan jumped in fright from Chu Hen's reaction. She sensed that a hint of cold, killing intent flashed past his eyes, and she immediately realized that her words had provoked him. "What are you doing?" "Sorry." Chu Hen heaved a deep sigh of relief. His expression relaxed and he replied coldly, "That Wuwang Valley is just a shameless bunch who steal people's bloodline boundaries. You know about this?" Lung Lingyan was even more astonished. Chu Hen clearly didn't even know the main situation in the Victory East State, but he actually knew about Innocence Valley. The main lineage of Innocence Valley was born with the wedding dress mystic body. This bloodline boundary allows one to seize the bloodline power of others for their own use. Valley Master Shintu Changkong's illusory sky mystic body was stolen from others. However, after dozens of years, Innocence Valley had already announced to the public that they would no longer steal other people's bloodlines. Moreover, after such a long time, they had already washed their hands clean, Chu Hen sneered. Of course he knew. For the sake of attaining the saint physique, Shintu Etian had set up an enormous trap, and his actions of controlling Yi Yao with the heavenly dusk pill and soul detachment powder was simply detestable to the extreme. "Senior sister, I need your help with something." Chu Hen looked at Lung Lingyan, his eyes revealing a sword-like determination. "Just say it. Immediately send a letter back to the demon-slaying Hall Master and ask him to send his disciples to investigate Innocence Valley's movements. But don't tell him that it's my request. Can I know the reason?" Lung Lingyan's clear eyes were like water as she asked gently. "I'll tell you when I find the people of Innocence Valley." But seeing that Chu Hen was so determined, Lung Lingyan didn't ask any more. She nodded. "Don't worry. Leave this to me." At this point, Chu Hen was more or less anxious. He had originally planned to wait until he completed the task of finding the flying celestial palace master, Qi Hanyu, and then ask for her help to rescue Yi Yao. After all, the success rate would be much higher this way. But time didn't allow him to delay any longer. His intuition told him that Yi Yao was getting closer and closer to danger. Even if he was alone, he had to go and support her. "Hang in there, little Yao. Big brother Chu Hen will find you soon," Chu Hen said resolutely in his heart as he looked up at the sky. A shooting star streaked across the sky, and in the blink of an eye, it formed a beautiful spark. The next day, rustle, the sound of hurried footsteps on the grass caused Chu Hen, Lung Lingyan, and the others to open their eyes. Senior sister Ling, junior brother Chu Hen. I found the mark left by junior sister Fuqin. Swish! Along with the excited shouts, a young figure drenched in sweat flashed over. He was holding a piece of fresh tree bark in his hand, and in the middle of the bark, there was an image of a small sword carved. Let me see. Su Lang snatched the tree bark and examined it. Then, his eyes lit up as he said, "It's indeed the mark left by Fuqin." Everyone was overjoyed, especially Danjun, Qi Ting, and Lu Qi. Where did you find it? Chu Hen asked. It's 60 kilometers ahead. The young man pointed in the direction they came from. Let's go. Without any hesitation, Chu Hen immediately gave the order. After taking the healing medicine and resting for a night, the people of Mount Kunlio had recovered a lot of their energy. Even though Danjun and a few others who were more seriously injured were still pale, it was not a problem. As long as they did not participate in the battle, there would not be any problems. Swish, swish, swish. With Chu Hen and Lung Lingyan in the lead, everyone moved quickly in the forest. However, after moving for less than 10 kilometers, Chu Hen suddenly smelled a dangerous aura rapidly approaching. Instinctively, he stopped and yelled, "Retreat!" What happened? Hurry! Lung Lingyan also yelled. In an instant, everyone spread out subconsciously, like fireworks exploding in the sky. Boom! In the next second, a majestic black torrent surged forth, smashing a large area of trees and forests in front of them into pieces. The soil on the ground cracked layer by layer, and the violent power was like a tsunami. Wherever it went, everything was crushed into nothingness. Bang, bang, bang. The strong impact was earth-shattering, whistling over. Everyone on Mount Kunlio who was caught off guard was shaken out. Fortunately, they retreated in time, so they didn't suffer serious injuries. Chu Hen and Lung Lingyan retreated to the left and right respectively. They looked at each other with serious expressions. Who are you? Hee. The cold laughter was full of undisguised hatred. In the darkness, more than a dozen figures with strong killing intent walked out from afar. Little bastard, I've finally found you, you bastard! It's you! In an instant, everyone on Mount Kunlio, including Chu Hen and Lung Lingyan, narrowed their eyes and showed a serious expression. The leader had long dark blue hair, a pale face, and the corners of his mouth were dark blue, as if he was smeared with poison. This person was none other than Liao Qixio, one of the leaders of Blood Refining Hall. Why was he here? Unexpected, astonishment, and a lot of uneasiness. Liao Qixio stared at Chu Hen fiercely as if he wanted to tear him into pieces. I've calculated everything, but I didn't expect you, an ant, to destroy the wall. Do you know how much I want to tear you into pieces? He was so angry that he wanted to burn Chu Hen into ashes. Very soon, Chu Hen understood. In the battle at the fish stream, Mount Kunlio had obtained a complete victory. Although Wen Liang, the master of the Devil Slayer Palace, had killed Ho Lai and slaughtered everyone in the Blood Refinement Hall within 100 miles, there were definitely a few fish that slipped through the net in such a large-scale battle. After that, those fish that slipped through the net found Liao Qixio and told him what happened. It was obvious that Blood Refining Hall had the upper hand, but who would have thought that because of an inconspicuous Chu Hen, they would lose the whole game? One could imagine how deep Liao Qixio's hatred for Chu Hen was. Liao Qixio, where's the master of our flying celestial palace? A disciple from Mount Kunlio asked sternly. Humph. Liao Qixio smiled sinisterly. Qi Hanyu, that old hag is dead, what? Clang. As soon as he said that, everyone was enraged as if they were struck by lightning. Their eyes were bloodshot. Don't talk nonsense. With your ability, how can you kill the master of our flying celestial palace? Su Lang roared angrily. Liao Qixio's face was full of disdain. It doesn't matter if you believe me or not. I cut off that old hag Chi Hanyu's flesh piece by piece. I tortured her for 3 days and 3 nights before I chopped off her head. Nonsense! I'll fight it out with you today. As soon as he finished speaking, a furious disciple was about to rush forward. However, in the next moment, a green holy sword shadow flew over and blocked the disciple's path. Don't be impulsive. The master of the flying celestial palace is not with him at all. Chapter 8:23. Don't be impulsive. The leader of the flying celestial temple isn't with him at all. The cold and proud sword aura spread out like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves, stirring up the gravel and leaves on the ground. Chu Han extended 2 fingers with one hand and controlled the blue Rand sword from a distance. Sword shadows flowed around his body like flickering light and passing shadows. His ice-cold eyes were like the edge of a sword as he stared at Liao Qixio in front of him. I don't believe a single word you said. Danjun had said that before the teams split up, Nongqi had sensed the aura of the leader of the flying celestial temple, Qi Hanyu. Moreover, there was another stranger's aura beside Qi Hanyu, and that aura did not originate from Liao Qixio. In other words, Liao Qixio had actually been separated from Qi Hanyu for some time. Not to mention the fact that the latter had met with misfortune. That's right, don't believe him. Danjun quickly realized what the problem was. What does it matter if I believe him or not? Liao Qixio's lips curled into a cold and cruel smile. A bone-chilling aura surged out of his body, and a gray mist was released from his body. The gray mist lingered around Liao Qixio's body like thousands of dust particles dancing, and also like a mysterious evil flame wantonly swaying. Lung Lingyan's expression changed as she muttered in a low voice, "Nether aqua flame." Nether aqua flame? Chu Hen's eyes narrowed slightly. He had witnessed the battle between Liao Qixio and Qi Hanyu in the first battle with the blood-refining sect in the desolate city. The other party's nether aqua flame could even corrode true origin energy. It was definitely a very terrifying ability. Just a little bit of it would corrode one's bones and heart. Amidst the panic, it was filled with determination. Liao Qixio was in existence on the same level as the 3 Hall Masters. He was a genuine heavenly profound stage powerhouse. He did not expect to encounter a ferocious tiger just 1 day after escaping from the wolf pack. Chu Hen, you know what to do. Lung Lingyan's expression was solemn, and her brows were furrowed with determination. At the same time, the Mount Kuan Lu disciples also showed their determination to cut off all means of retreat. Of course. Chu Hen's eyelids twitched. His aura did not decrease, but instead increased. He opened his mouth and said, "Everyone, listen to my orders. Immediately scatter and retreat." You! Lung Lingyan frowned. This is not the time to be a hero. I know, but I don't plan to die here. Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, a transcendent sword aura gushed out. Chu Hen stretched out one hand, and the blue Rand sword immediately swept up a piercingly cold wave of air as it slashed towards Liao Qixio. Go! The deafening roar set off an invisible sound wave impact that swept in all directions. Everyone on Mount Kunliu was startled. It was obvious that Chu Hen's actions were completely different from what they were thinking. Similarly, even Liao Qixio was surprised. He originally thought that the people of Mount Kunliu would fight to the death and create a chance for Chu Hen to escape, but Chu Hen liked to do the opposite. Your courage makes me laugh at you, Liao Qixio's murderous aura sword. Then, he lifted his leg and stomped on the ground. Bang! The ground trembled and a shockwave soared into the sky. Thousands of crushed stones surged into the air and instantly turned into life-threatening hidden weapons that surged toward Chu Hen. Buzz! In an instant, the blue Rand sword shone brightly, and its speed doubled. The sword radiance lingering on the sword edge smashed thousands of stones and went straight for the opponent's throat. Humph! Insignificant skill. Liao Qixio's fingertips flicked out a ray of gray light and hit the blue Rand sword. Bang! The sound waves collided, and the blue Rand's sword was directly shaken out. Whoosh! However, at the same time, Chu Hen sacrificed the Tianai saber and leaped up. The cyclone crown between heaven and earth poured into his body like a whale. Chop, with a roar, a sky-opening saber radiance fell down, breaking the wind and waves, and fell on the dozens of disciples of the blood-refining hall behind Liao Qixio. Damn it! The faces of the people behind Liao Qixio changed greatly, and they immediately realized Chu Hen's intention. Without saying anything, they immediately withdrew and flew back. Boom! The powerful saber radiance fell, the crushed stones collapsed, and the waves overlapped. Many disciples of the blood-refining hall who were caught off guard were shaken to the point that their internal organs turned over, and blood flowed from the corners of their mouths. Why don't you go? It's easier for me to escape alone. Chu Hen turned back and shouted to Lung Lingyan and others again. Obviously, the purpose of Chu Hen's action was to increase the chances of escape for the people behind him. After all, everyone was injured, and staying here would only cause more trouble. Lung Lingyan gritted her teeth and immediately said, "Disperse and evacuate. Senior Sister Lingyan? Cut the crap, go." But as soon as the voice fell, Liao Qixio stepped into the air, and the surging netherworld water flame rose like a black flame. He waved his arms, and the amazing power quickly gathered between his palms, forming a restless gray water mass. It's so naive and ridiculous. If I let you, a group of nonentities, escape, Liao Qixio, will be laughed at by the world. Then, Liao Qixio put his palms together, and the gray light mass in the middle burst like a squeezed water ball. Bang! In an instant, a circle of gray light patterns swept in all directions with Liao Qixio as the center. The mighty gray ripples caused the space to twist violently, and it was unstoppable. Chu Hen grasped the Tianai saber, and the sharp saber waves flowed along both sides. He chopped down with all his strength. Boom! The ferocious impact was comparable to the combined attack of thousands of raging bulls. A series of sparks flew, and Chu Hen's arms went numb, almost causing his weapon to fly out of his hands. Bang, bang, bang! Even though they tried their best to block the majority of the impact, the overwhelming gray light still touched the bodies of a few Mount Kunlia disciples. The netherworld water flame was like a poison that quickly wrapped around the bodies of those people. Their skin quickly turned a greenish purple, and it was an exceptionally terrifying sight. Screams rang out one after another. Danjun, Su Lang, and the others were burning with anxiety, but they could not approach. Being touched by a trace of the netherworld water flame was destined to a miserable end. Just at this moment, an icy cold current spread out, and with a buzz, a strange purple flame appeared out of thin air between heaven and earth. The purple flame quickly wrapped around the few Mount Kunlia disciples who had been corroded by the netherworld water flame, and attached itself to the gray water flame, and began to burn. The burning of the two flames caused them to turn pale with fright. But immediately after, something unbelievable happened. The sound of water vapor evaporating could be heard in the air, and the gray netherworld water flame was actually swallowed by the purple flame, quickly turning into nothingness. Immediately after, the purple flame also quickly separated and disappeared. The few Mount Kunlia disciples who had thought that they would die for sure had actually broken free from the shackles of death. Only a red burn mark was left on their skin that had come into contact with the netherworld water flame. This? After being shocked, everyone's gazes fell on Chu Hen. They saw that his entire body was enveloped in a demonic purple glow, and there was a purple glow in the depths of his handsome face. Chu Hen's flames could actually burn the netherworld water flame. Even Liao Qixio did not expect this. A cold glint flashed in his eyes, and his killing intent surged even more. No wonder even Ho Lai would fall in your hands. You are indeed an extraordinary fellow, Buzz. Liao Qixio's eyes flashed with a ruthless glint, and the netherworld water flame that he emitted was like two wild dragons coming out of the sea, rushing towards Chu Hen. The gray light filled the sky, spreading out in all directions. With a thought, Chu Hen spread out his 5 fingers. Voila! The purple demonic flames rose up and surrounded his body, forming a fireball the size of a house. The netherworld water flame directly rushed forward, covering the surface of the fireball. The intense collision caused the space to tremble. Chu Hen used the purple fireball as a shield to resist the corrosion of the netherworld water flame. From afar, it looked like 2 domineering flames were intertwining. Although the solitary burning demonic flame was strong, Liao Qixue was a profound sky realm expert. His various abilities were not something that the current Chu Hen could contend against. The gray water flame quickly poured into the purple fireball, and there was no way to block it. Senior Sisterling, what do we do? The people from Mount Kunliu were anxious. In this situation, they could neither stay nor leave. Without waiting for Lung Lingyan to think of a way to deal with it, the netherworld water flame covering the purple fireball became incomparably sharp, like a layer of steel plate covered with nails. How can the power of floaters shake a tree? The cold wind whistled, and the killing intent surged. Liao Qixue stretched out his 5 fingers and pointed at the place where Chu Hen was. Kill! Buzz! He turned his wrist and closed his 5 fingers. The powerful gray light directly launched an irresistible crushing force towards the center of the purple fireball. Bang! The purple fireball immediately exploded in the middle. The demonic flames splashed and were instantly crushed. The tide-like netherworld water flame all rushed towards Chu Hen. A cruel smile appeared on the faces of Liao Qixue and the people from the blood-refining hall. The people from Mount Kunliu turned pale with fright. Suddenly, at the critical moment, the spirit tattoo between Chu Hen's eyebrows flashed. Accompanied by the vast Reiki energy, a group of gorgeous crystal brilliance burst out from Chu Hen's body. There seemed to be a strange dazzling tree shadow outside his body. Then, the dazzling light exploded like a star, expanding rapidly. Boom! The netherworld water flame surrounding Chu Hen was all blown away and repelled. Whoosh! The wind swept away the clouds, and the mountains and rivers roared. His 2 consecutive attacks were resolved by Chu Hen, which made Liao Qixue's killing intent rise again. It's almost over! Boom! The majestic power of an expert in the profound sky realm poured out, and the storm roared. Chu Hen suddenly felt an unprecedented great pressure. He had underestimated the power of an expert in the profound sky realm. Once Liao Qixue exerted his full strength, no one could escape unscathed. Thunder rolled, the tide rolled, and the surrounding trees and vegetation were all uprooted. Liao Qixue looked at the panicked faces of the people from Mount Kunliu. Chapter 8:24. Kill them all. Leave no one alive. Yes. Liao Qixue gave the order, and all the disciples of the blood-refining hall released a strong and cold killing intent. They rushed to the people of Mount Kunliu like fierce wolves and tigers. Chu Hen's face changed. He raised his momentum and waved the Tianai saber to intercept. Humph! However, the next moment, the storm stacked up. Liao Qixue directly left a residual shadow on the spot and immediately flashed to the front of Chu Hen. The netherworld water flame outside his body rose like an evil fire. His hands moved back and forth. The strength gathered into a palm and hit toward Chu Hen. In a hurry, Chu Hen hurriedly put the Tianai saber in front of him and used the saber to meet the opponent's palm strength. Bang! The amazing power surged down, and the fierce muffled sound spread. The silver light burst. Chu Hen flew out as if he was hit by a heavy force. Bang bang! He broke 2 strong trees in a row before he could stop falling. His arms trembled and his qi and blood rose. Chu Hen gritted his teeth. The purple light surged in his pupils and his face was frosty, but immediately after, surging waves of gray light attacked from all directions. The pressure originating from a sky-profound realm expert caused Chu Hen's shoulders to feel as if he was carrying a mountain boulder, making it hard for him to move. Do you still want to fight like a trapped beast? Liao Qixue stared at Chu Hen as if he was looking at a dying man. Junior brother Chu Hen, go quickly. Don't care about us anymore. You still have to go back to take over the position of the head. The people of Mount Kunlio had been besieged by the people of the Blood Refining Hall. They were already injured, so they immediately showed signs of defeat. Hey, it turns out to be the new head of Mount Kunlio. That's really disrespectful. Liao Qixu's voice was light, and Indigo's lips curled into a cruel smile. Then, a ruthless glint flashed in her eyes, and she shouted in a low voice, "Turn to ashes." Chu Hen's pupils trembled slightly. Rumble. In a split second, with him as the center, the surroundings suddenly rose into the sky, and the deep water curtain pounced towards Chu Hen. At the same time, it suddenly became sharp, and rows of sharp steel spikes and sawteeth appeared front, back, left, right. Chu Hen had nowhere to escape. Liao Qixu seemed to have already seen Chu Hen's miserable state. Even so, the hatred in his heart was still intense. Dying like this is considered letting you off lightly. Whoosh! Suddenly, at this moment, an unprecedentedly powerful aura swept towards them. The heavens and the earth were overshadowed. At the critical moment, a sword pillar that was like a divine light pierced through the layer of clouds in the sky, and it shot down like a startling swan. What? Liao Qixu suddenly raised his head, and the light released by the ruthless sword light made Chu Hen's face pale. The fear formed at that moment became his last expression. Boom! With a loud sound, the peerlessly powerful sword light directly hit Liao Qixu's body like a punishment from heaven. The space shook, and the airwaves spread all over the sky. After a hasty and short scream, blood rained down. The ground below was like a blooming flower. Rocks piled up and collided with each other, and the terrible airwaves swept out. Once again, the people of the Blood Refining Hall were shaken to spit out blood and staggered. The sudden change caught everyone off guard. Bang! The gray light screen that was rushing towards Chu Hen also collapsed in an instant, breaking into pieces. In Mount Kunlio, all the people of the Blood Refining Hall were stunned and widened their eyes. They saw that in the area where Liao Qixu was, there was a huge pit formed by the sword qi. In the ruins, Liao Qixu was covered with blood, and his eyes were wide open. He lay on the ground motionlessly, fresh blood flowed out, filling up the gap. On his body, there was a bloody hole running through his heart. What? All the people were stunned. Suddenly, a sword light flew out of nowhere and killed Liao Qixu, who was an expert in the profound sky realm. Was it a dream? Or was it an illusion? Even though they saw it with their own eyes, they were still at a loss. Such a scene was really a terrible nightmare for the people of the Blood Refining Hall. In a moment of silence, the people of the Blood Refining Hall turned around and fled in panic, as if they had seen a ghost. They didn't even dare to understand what was going on. Swoosh! At this time, Chu Hen looked up at the sky and saw a vague figure flying by. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a black spot and disappeared. That was? Chu Hen raised his eyes and was slightly stunned. The outline of the figure was a little similar. Before the crowd could recover from their shock, another figure quickly traversed the void and flew over the crowd. Master of the Flying Fairy Temple. It's the Master of the Flying Fairy Temple, a disciple of Mount Kunlio exclaimed loudly, and his voice was full of excitement. What? The Master of the Fairy Temple. Everyone fixed their eyes on her. As expected, the elegant, and beautiful figure was the Master of the Fairy Temple, Qi Hanyu Master. Here, the crowd hurriedly shouted loudly and waved their hands in excitement. He had really worn out iron shoes in fruitless searching. He had never expected to meet the Flying Fairy Palace Lord here. However, when they heard the name of the Master of the Fairy Temple, the people of the Blood Refining Hall all trembled and ran faster. Master, the mood of the people of Mount Kunlio was like a wave, and the contrast was especially big. But to their surprise, the Master of the Fairy Temple, Qi Hanyu, didn't even lower her head as if she didn't hear their call. Instead, She directly went back to the direction where the figure in front of them disappeared. What was going on? The crowd was confused again and looked at each other. Didn't the master see us? Impossible. We were so loud. That's strange. Why did she ignore us? Who was that person? Did he kill Liao Qixu? Why did he help us? It seems that the master is chasing him. Damn it. I don't want to think about it anymore. My head hurts. This sudden turn of events and this series of questions caused the minds of the people of Mount Kunliu to be in a mess. It was difficult for them to calm down quickly. Damn it. Let the people of the blood refining hall escape. I'll get rid of them. Su Lang's eyes were filled with killing intent. No need, Lung Lingyan stopped him and said faintly, Liao Qixu and Ho Lai are already dead. The few people left won't amount to anything. Don't bother about them. The few of them nodded, and the hostility they emitted was reduced slightly. How are you? Are you hurt? Lung Lingyan looked at Chu Hen with a trace of softness in her eyes. Chu Hen shook his head with a slightly gloomy look. He then walked to the deep pit in the ruins in front of him and beside Liao Qixu's body. Looking at the lifeless body, Chu Hen slowly squatted down and focused on the only wound. Then, his eyes narrowed and his lips moved slightly as he murmured in a low voice. Chapter 825. What a sharp sword technique! He killed Liao Qixu with one strike. Even if it was a sneak attack, the flying celestial temple master might not have been able to kill Liao Qixu so easily. Who exactly is that person? In the rubble, the people from Mount Kunliu surrounded Liao Qixu's corpse and discussed in low voices. He was one of the leaders of the blood-refining sect and a famous figure in the Eastern Victory State. They did not expect him to be killed in such a desolate place. He must have felt puzzled and unwilling at the moment of his death. He did not even see the appearance of the person who killed him before he died. If news of this spread, it would be embarrassing. Chu Hen stared at Liao Qixu's fatal wound and fell silent for a while. Then, he stood up and looked in the direction where the mysterious person and the flying celestial temple master disappeared. I think I know who that person is, Chu Hen muttered to himself with a complicated look in his eyes. Lung Lingyan, who was standing behind him, seemed to have noticed it. She looked up and was about to say something but stopped herself. Chu Hen turned to look at her. Their eyes met as though they were conveying a kind of affirmation. Lung Lingyan's eyes lit up, and an unconcealable joy appeared on her beautiful face. Chu Hen smiled and said, "Let's go." Where to first? Since the flying celestial temple master is safe, we don't have to continue looking for her. After all, we can't catch up with her with our speed, Chu Hen said. Then let's look for Fuqin, Hua Shui, and the rest first, Danjun said. All right. Chu Hen gave his affirmation. Then, he waved his hand, and a ball of purple flame gushed out and jumped onto Liao Qixu's corpse. The demonic flame danced coldly and domineeringly, instantly turning Liao Qixu's corpse into nothingness, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The two leaders of the blood-refining sect, Ho Lai and Liao Qixu, were annihilated in the ancient Desolation Heaven territory. They did not stay here for long. They continued to move forward according to the marks left by Fuqin. On the other side of the forest, a large tree with lush foliage was entangled with thick vines. The long vines intertwined and connected, forming a natural vine bridge. Swish, there was a slight airflow, and a few leaves slowly fell. 3 figures suddenly appeared on the empty vine bridge. Miss Lan, if I'm not wrong, the mysterious person who killed Liao Qixu is most likely. Gong Yangyu, a middle-aged man said in a deep voice. Gong Yangyu. The sect master of Mount Kunliu had gone missing 20 years ago, and there had been no news of him since then. The young lady nodded slightly. Her red lips parted slightly as she said, before Gong Yangyu went missing, he was already a renowned expert in the victorious Eastern Prefecture. After 20 years, his strength and cultivation have far surpassed the past. Once this trip to the ancient desolate heaven domain ends, Mount Kunliu will be one of the top 10 factions in the prefecture. In that case, we still need Gong Yangyu to regain his authority. Otherwise, the Kunliu mountain peak will only be considered a second-rate power. A second-rate force. In the entire Victory East region, the number of sects that dared to treat Mount Kunliu as a second-rate force could be counted on one hand. However, the expressions of these three people were especially calm from the beginning to the end. In fact, there was even a hint of frivolity in their tones. There was only one reason. Behind them was the Thunder Saint Palace. Where are we? After a day of non-stop travel, Chu Hen, Lung Lingyan, and the others finally arrived at a Sky Province city. They stood at the peak of a mountain as they looked ahead. It was a luxurious palace. All of the buildings were made of gold and jade, and they were made of glazed bricks and tiles. The jade palaces shone brightly under the sunlight like architectural treasures. They were far better than the emperor's palaces outside. What a beautiful place. I'm afraid even the celestial palace is nothing more than this. Everyone exclaimed. I think we've arrived at the 7-star city, Lung Lingyan said. Oh! Chu Hen was slightly stunned. He was quite sensitive to the words 7-star. What kind of place is this? I'm not too sure about the specifics. After all, the ancient desolate heaven domain only opens once every 1,000 years. Moreover, every time it opens there would be an unknown change in the internal structure. However, as the name suggests, it's most likely related to the Big Dipper. 7-star. For some reason, the first thing that came to Chu Hen's mind was the 7-star Saint Scripture and the 7-star Soul Pearl. 1,000 years ago, the 7 Souls Nation in the 100 Nations continent rose to power with the help of the 7-star Soul Pearls and became the leader of all nations. If it was not for the Azura sect, Illusory Rain sect, and otherworldly spirit sect joining hands with the Heavenly Cloud Manor and the Imperishable Pavilion, the 7 Souls Nation would have conquered the entire 100 Nations continent. If he thought about it carefully, the prosperity of the 7 Souls ancient kingdom might have something to do with the ancient desolate heaven domain. Let's go. Let's go in and take a look. Then, everyone flew up and headed toward the 7-star city in front of them. The glorious and luxurious city was forged into a city that was as bright as the stars. Before they even crossed the city, an unprecedented luxurious aura blew toward them. The magnificent buildings and pagodas were dazzling, showing off their nobility. The 7-star city was extremely vast. The buildings and fortresses that stretched as far as the eye could see were pleasing to the eyes. However, when they got close to the central area, they were shocked to find that the sky above the area was gloomy. Moreover, there were all sorts of chaotic energy fluctuations surging in front of them. There's a battle going on over there, Su Lang said in a deep voice. Dan Zhen's eyes narrowed, and her expression was solemn. It's not just a few people. Boom! Bang! When Chu Hen and the others arrived at the central area, the first thing that entered their eyes were the 7 magnificent, godlike pavilions. These 7 pavilions were grand and luxurious. They towered into the clouds, and they were arranged in the order of the Big Dipper. There were also many magnificent buildings in the surroundings, but none of them could be mentioned in the same breath as the 7 jade buildings. However, in this place that was comparable to a divine palace, a series of intense battles were taking place. Smoke rose from all directions as the people from various forces began to fight. Scram! I found this saint armor first. A furious roar pierced everyone's ears. Along with a soaring evil aura, a sturdy man instantly transformed into a ferocious tiger. Those who block me shall die. Hiss hiss. On the east side, there was a bone-chilling cold air current. A several 100-meter-long giant snake coiled around the top of a tall tower. It flicked its long tongue in and out, and its vertical snake eyes issued a warning. If you don't want to die, then hand over the Star Rain sword that you just obtained. More than 10 ruthless people surrounded a thin and weak figure and shouted angrily. "Humph! You want to take the Star Rain sword from my hands with just these few people?" The thin and weak figure was not someone to be trifled with. As soon as he finished speaking, a merciless sword force erupted. In an instant, sword chi flew in the sky, and human figures flickered along with the sharp whistling sound of sword chi. Blood rained down, and corpses fell from the sky, smashing into puddles of meat paste. It's really chaotic. Looks like we missed the first opportunity. Kuan Lu Shan and the others landed on a 100-meter-tall rooftop and stopped. At a glance, the range of the chaotic battle was quite wide, and there were many people with powerful auras among them. Before figuring out the specific situation, if they rashly participated, they would definitely be asking for trouble. Are these people fighting for treasures? It looks like it. Fu Qin and the others are here? As soon as the voice fell, Chu Hen could not help but raise his eyebrows, and a smile appeared on his face. They're here. Oh! Everyone was startled. Before they could react, a burst of rapid airflow was caught by everyone. They saw a few afterimages flashing through the air, heading straight for them. Chu Hen, Senior Sister Lingyan. Chapter 8:26. They're here. As soon as Chu Hen finished speaking, a wave of rapid air surged over, and then a few figures flashed over swiftly. Chu Hen, Senior Sister Lingyan. You've finally found this place. The voice that was filled with pleasant surprise was extremely familiar. It was Nong Qi who possessed a formidable perception. Whoosh! The dust on the high platform dispersed, and a few familiar faces appeared before the group from Mount Kuan Lu's group. Nong Qi, Fu Qin, Jishu, and the sect leader of Thousand Crane Sect, Qi Zhang. It's great to see all of you. Joy surged out of Chu Hen's eyes when he saw the 4 of them were safe and sound, and then he asked, "Where's the others?" Besides these 4 people, there ought to be Haozi, Mu Feng, and Hua Shui, but at this moment, they were nowhere to be seen. Don't worry. They're fine. They're much luckier than us. Qi Zhang raised his head slightly and smiled. Everyone was stunned, and then they revealed a puzzled expression. They're over there. Fu Qin turned around and pointed at the 7 majestic and imposing pavilions that were arranged in the Big Dipper's position at the center of 7-Star City. Pavilion Master Mu Feng is at the Migres Pavilion, Senior Brother Zhou Hao is at the Alioth Pavilion, Hua Shui is at the Merak Pavilion. Fu Qin pointed at 3 pavilions in succession as he spoke. Everyone was even more puzzled. Chu Hen and Lung Lingyan couldn't help but look at each other, and then the latter smiled lightly. Looks like something interesting happened before we arrived here. Tell me the details. Yes. Fu Qin nodded respectfully, and then he explained in detail. After we split up with Senior Brother Shanzhen that day, we originally wanted to meet up with him first. However, Nong Qi sensed the aura of the Master of Flying Celestial Palace halfway. After weighing the pros and cons, we decided to search for the Master of Flying Celestial Palace first. When he spoke up to hear, Fu Qin glanced at Danjun apologetically. Danjun smiled and nodded to indicate that Fu Qin didn't do anything wrong. If it was anyone else, they would put the overall situation first. But for some unknown reason, no matter how we sent out our sex signal, the Flying Immortal Temple Master refused to meet up with us. Moreover, there's no pattern to her movements, as if she's chasing someone. Fu Qin said in confusion. Nong Qi added, I sensed another unfamiliar aura apart from the Flying Immortal Hall Master. Everyone nodded. Chu Hen and Lung Lingyan weren't too surprised. After all, both of them were already aware of this. Unfortunately, we still lost him in the end. Later on, we came to this 7-star city by chance. Fu Qin paused for a moment, looked around at the surroundings where fierce battles were taking place, and said, As you can see, 7-star city can be said to be filled with treasures. Almost every single jade building has all sorts of spirit treasures hidden within it. People from various powers have come here to fight over the treasures of 7-star city. Boom! The majestic and chaotic chi waves spread out wantonly, causing the sky to lose its color. Among the various battles, there were teams fighting against each other, and there were also solo heroes fighting against each other. Blood splashed into the blue sky, and corpses covered the ground. However, there was no sign of stopping. The seven-star city was like a huge treasure bowl. It was exposed to the greedy gazes of many people. However, among so many palaces and buildings, the 7 most magnificent jade pavilions were the most precious treasures. At this moment, everyone's curiosity was piqued. Their eyes were filled with anticipation as they looked at Fu Qin, Qi Zhang, and the others. What's in those 7 pavilions? Dan Zhen asked. Fu Qin and Qi Zhang looked at each other, and the latter said in a calm voice, Star Realm. Star Realm? Chu Hen's face was filled with astonishment. What's this? It should be the same as the flying, immortal profound realm, right? Lung Lingyan asked tentatively. Senior Sister Lingyan is indeed smart. Fu Qin nodded. Fu Qin nodded his head and gave his affirmation. Pavilion, every pavilion hides a star realm. Within that secret realm, there is an extremely shocking and mysterious power. Then why don't all of you go in? Dan Zhen asked casually. Qi Zhang smiled and answered awkwardly. Only one person can enter each star realm. In other words, there are only 7 people who can enter. 7 people? Wush, Su Lang, Ling Tao, and the others were in an uproar. There were so many powerhouses from 7-star city, but Mount Kunlio actually snatched away 3 spots? This was really unexpected. Even Chu Hen was very surprised. Mouse and Mu Feng occupying one of the spots was not too surprising. The former had a meticulous mind and great wisdom that appeared to be slow-witted. He was very clear about the situation and would adopt a corresponding strategy. As for Mu Feng, ever since he awakened the bloodline limit of the Sword Devil profound body, his heart was filled with ruthlessness. This ruthlessness could also allow him to obtain what he wanted in such a situation. However, other than her exquisite and powerful medical skills, Hua Shui's combat value was almost negligible. It was difficult to imagine how Hua Shui broke through the tight encirclement and seized the qualification to enter the star realm from the crowd of experts. Qi Zhang noticed the bewilderment of everyone, and then he said with a smile, speaking of which, that little girl Hua Shui is really interesting. Everyone else fights to enter the secret realm, but only she was forcefully dragged in by the secret realm. What? Everyone didn't understand. It's like this. At the beginning, these 7-star pavilions didn't appear. The chaotic battle triggered the restriction of this place, and from there, the 7-star towers were summoned one after another. When the first 6-star towers appeared, the battle was so intense. The few of us were fighting to be the first, fearing that we wouldn't be able to catch up, but that girl just had to hide far away. She even kept saying that her life was more important, and that she wasn't married yet. When they spoke up to hear, they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But this was indeed Hua Shui's style. It just so happens that the place where Hua Shui hid just happened to be the place where the Merak Pavilion appeared. Before the others could react, she had inexplicably entered the pavilion. Jishu smiled and covered her mouth as she laughed. This? After listening to Jishu's story, Chu Hen, Lung Lingyan, and the others could not help but laugh. As the saying goes, fortune favors fools. This was most likely the meaning of this. Of course, Hua Shui was not a fool. She was just a little less competitive than the others, but the god of luck was still on her side. Although Fu Qin, Jishu, and the others did not enter the Star Pavilion's secret realm, they also had a great harvest. From the intensity of the true origin energy in their bodies, it could be determined that their cultivation base and strength had greatly increased. The battle continued. Looking at the chaotic 7-star city, the group from Mount Kuan-Lu quietly watched the changes and temporarily did not participate in it. Lung Lingyan began to tell Fu Qin, Jishu, and the others about the unforeseen events that had happened these days. This included the battle at Fish Water Stream, Nangong Qian's betrayal, and Chu Hen's efforts to turn the tide, and was announced as the next sect leader of Mount Kunlu by the Devil Slayer Palace Master. Then, they met Shan Zhen on the celestial prying platform and encountered Liao Qi Xiu's attack. After listening to this, Fu Qin and the others could not help but sigh. At the same time, the way they looked at Chu Hen became much hotter. It seemed that bringing Chu Hen back to Mount Kunlu was the right decision. On the observation platform, Chu Hen stood at the edge of the platform. The waves of air produced by the chaotic battle rushed towards him continuously. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and his hair danced with the waves. Chu Hen's gaze rested on the 7-star pavilions in front of him for a long time. Every star pavilion glowed brightly. Cyclones flowed on the outer walls, swallowing and spitting out traces of silver light. Even in the daytime, they were as bright as crystal pillars, shrouded in a myriad of divine splendor. The land of the star realm, Chu Hen muttered to himself softly. In his heart, he secretly wondered what was inside. Previously at Mount Kunlu, Chu Hen's cultivation base had increased greatly in the mysterious realm of the flying immortal. He had also obtained the sect's strongest technique, the one-sword flying immortal technique. However, the 7-star city was not something that Mount Kunlu could compare to. The star secret realm was also not something that the mysterious realm of the flying immortal could compare to. For Mu Feng, Haozi, and Hua Shui, this was also a fortuitous encounter. "Thank you." A figure with a steady aura walked to Chu Hen's side. Chu Hen was stunned at first. He asked in confusion, "Why do you say that, sect leader Qizhang?" Qizhang smiled. "If it wasn't for you, how could I have witnessed the cruelty of the ancient desolate heaven domain? Compared to it, the 100-nation state is really too peaceful." Chu Hen also smiled, and his eyelids twitched. "Sect leader Qizhang has broken through his previous realm, right? Congratulations. I'm still lacking compared to you," Qizhang said indifferently. His eyes revealed a hint of calmness as he looked ahead. The reason he chose to come here was so he could break free from the shackles in his heart and pursue a higher state of mind. Others might not be able to figure out what Qizhang had comprehended during his stay in the ancient desolate heaven domain. However, one could see from his eyes that were more determined than before that he had indeed gained something. With a simple thank you to express his gratitude, Qizhang had also redefined Chu Hen's position in the ancient desolate heaven domain. Rumble! Suddenly, a majestic and violent star energy appeared in the sky above the area in front of them. Waves of air rose and the wind howled. Countless silver whirlpools gathered together like a nebula vortex. They rapidly compressed and instantly formed an extremely dense ball of energy. Chapter 8:27 Merak Kill, Shattering Star River. The surging nebula airwaves covered the sky and gathered in the void. Tens of thousands of silver light swirls gathered together and formed a shockingly dense energy sphere. What was that? Chu Hen, who was on the high platform below, could not help but be startled. Some astonishment surged onto his face. "Isn't that Junior Chu Hen's technique? It's exactly the same." Behind them, Mount Kunlia's group was also attracted by this sudden scene. They looked up at the sky in front of them, their hearts filled with confusion. Boom! Bang! The next moment, the peerless Merak power sphere collided head-on with the two bright and solid rainbows like a meteorite from outer space. In an instant, the aftermath of the soaring airwaves swept across the sky, and the three violent forces wantonly tore at each other. Many buildings collapsed, and many people in the vicinity were forced to retreat by the powerful aftershock. Immediately after, the three figures flew backwards from the raging energy wave. One of them was tall and sturdy. He wore a silk robe and had a jade crown on his head. Silver starlight surrounded his body. Li Han Xiong. Even if the two of you join forces, what can you do to me? The man clenched his fist. The 7-star power around him was like a sacred flame, and he exuded an innate noble aura. Of the two people in front of him, one was skinny and had a gloomy gaze. There was a pattern of a flaming cloud on his clothes. The other person's aura was even colder. The most eye-catching part was his right arm. His right arm was covered in sharp claws. It was not a human limb. Someone from the Immortal Pavilion? A disciple from Mount Kunliu behind Chu-Hen said casually. It should be. Only those freaks from the Immortal Pavilion like to graft the limbs of demonic beasts onto their own bodies. Their strength is strengthened, but they are neither human nor ghost. That person seems to be from the Heavenly Cloud Manor. The speaker did not mean it, but the listener thought it. When he heard the names Immortal Pavilion and Heavenly Cloud Manor, Chu-Hen already had an answer. At the same time, the interest between Chu-Hen's brows turned into faint contempt. Hey, Yen Ludong, are you still dreaming of being an emperor? Why don't you take a look at yourselves? The Heavenly Cloud Manor's Li Yi sneered. The Immortal Pavilion's Han Xiong smirked disdainfully. I heard that a few months ago, the Seven Souls Mansion base you set up in Kongyu City was destroyed by a nobody. Congratulations! Ha 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 ha! Shut your dog mouth! The man called Yen Ludong's expression turned grave immediately. His eyes looked as though they were about to spit fire. On a tall building several hundred meters behind Yen Ludong, a beautiful young woman with a noble aura stood in front of a dozen figures with strong cultivation bases. Her face was covered in frost. Every time she recalled what happened in Kongyu City, her heart would be filled with hatred. In the depths of her memory, she could never forget that cold and merciless figure. That enemy she could never forget had massacred the entire Seven Souls Mansion in Kongyu City, including the Alcade Star Spirit Envoy, Alcade King Yen Qishan, and the third Prince Yen Yunan. All of them had died in that person's hands in front of her. That person was none other than the descendant of the Seven Souls Nation's imperial family and the current Seven Souls Mansion's fourth princess, Yen Rong. What? Are you desperate enough to jump over the wall? Li Yi said disdainfully. A hint of madness suddenly surged in the Immortal Pavilion's Han Xiong's eyes. Today, I'll eliminate all of you who escaped the net in Seven Stars City. As for your great cause of restoring your nation, you can wait for your next life. The moment his words left his mouth, two surging auras surged out of their bodies. Yen Ludong frowned slightly. However, before he could make a move, at this moment, there was a rumble of thunder that shook the nine heavens. The Jade Tower on the Mizar Star, one of the seven magnificent star towers, suddenly shone with extraordinary splendor. The pure and holy light scattered in all directions, gorgeous and dazzling. Everyone in Seven Stars City was shocked. In the next instant, a majestic aura swept out. Swoosh! Subsequently, a ray of light phantom shot out from the radiant Jade Tower, leaving a trail of sparks in the air. It traversed the sky, revealing its sharpness like a sharp sword. A cold and merciless dangerous aura instantly enveloped Li Yi from the Heavenly Cloud Manor. The latter's contracted pupils reflected the incoming silver light. Bang! With a muffled sound, the flowing light phantom accurately struck Li Yi's body. Blood splattered everywhere, and internal organs splattered everywhere. Li Yi didn't even have the time to scream before he was torn into pieces. Its eldest royal brother, Yen Rong, who was in the pavilion behind, shouted in surprise. After killing Li Yi with one strike, the ray of light didn't slow down and attacked the Immortal Pavilion's Han Xiong on the other side. The latter's face was filled with horror. He reached out with his scaly arm and grabbed at the opponent. Buzz! The air trembled and the space shook. Han Xiong's arm suddenly fell into a state of stillness. A slender palm firmly grasped the opponent's elbow. Ta! Immediately after, a second hand quickly grabbed Han Xiong's shoulder. Not good. Han Xiong had a bad feeling. His eyes widened, and a slightly effeminate face appeared in front of him. Yen Zhenbei, what can I do for you? The effeminate and handsome man smiled evilly, looking especially cruel. Bang! Along with his voice, scarlet blood splattered. Han Xiong's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His scaly arm was forcefully pulled off by the former, his flesh was still attached to his tendons, and his bones could clearly be seen. The crowd who witnessed all this couldn't bear to look straight at it. How ruthless! Dan Zhen of the Mount Kunliu team said. Ah! The intense pain caused Han Xiong's face to contort. Yan Zhenbei, I'll kill you. That depends on whether you're qualified or not. The effeminate and handsome man's hand turned into a palm blade. His palm was covered in a layer of silver starlight. With a flash of light, a round head flew out and was immediately separated from the body. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, he had killed 2 experts. His ruthlessness had stunned many of the people in the room. Immediately, the surrounding people instinctively retreated a few steps, not daring to provoke him. Eldest royal brother, why did you come out of the sun-opening star realm so quickly? Yan Ludong asked as he stepped forward. 7 star towers, 7 spots, one could only enter once. Logically speaking, the longer one stayed in the star-secret realm, the more benefits one would receive. However, it was a waste for the other party to come out so quickly. Yan Zhenbei looked up slightly. His eyes were filled with arrogance. We have something more important to do. Yan Ludong narrowed his eyes. He immediately understood what the other party was referring to and nodded tacitly. It's him. Suddenly, a sharp cry that was filled with hatred reverberated through the heavens and the earth, and everyone's attention was attracted by this sudden voice.